Chapter 12:12. Li Qingshan's words made the entire building fall into an uproar again. Everyone present had come for Hu Xian. The reward of sacrificing herself to purge a scourge of the martial arts world had added a halo of holiness to her. When they heard that Li Qingshan was here to cause trouble for her, they couldn't sit still anymore. Righteous indignation overwhelmed their fear. Li Qingshan smiled. It seemed that Hu Xian heir was quite charming. She was a suitable candidate. The five Venom sect's leader, who was lying under the table, also twitched. Cold sweat appeared on Tai Xiong's forehead. This group of young and hot-blooded men had never seen Li Qingshan's terror before. He didn't think that Li Qingshan would be merciful if they were to act rashly for the sake of a beauty. He was friends with their fathers, so how could he sit back and do nothing? However, if he made a move, he would only lose his life for nothing. Lady Xian heir is just young and ignorant. That's why she wanted to make an enemy of your highness. Your highness is magnanimous, so there's no need to lower yourself to her level. Why don't you ask her to come and apologize? She wants to make an enemy of me? Li Qingshan was stunned. Tai Xiong was tongue-tied. His face turned red and purple. He muttered to himself, so he doesn't know. This is interesting. Just half a day ago, I didn't even hear the name Hu Xian heir. Why does she want to make an enemy of me? How does she want to make an enemy of me? This, Tai Xiong's mouth was filled with bitterness. He couldn't answer. He felt that everyone was looking at him with disdain. If you don't want to say it, I won't force you. Li Qingshan waved his hand at a table next to him. There was a young man in a brocade robe holding a folding fan. Speak. I, Lu Zixio, would rather die than betray Lady Xian heir. Lu Zixio's face was filled with pride. Even though his heart was filled with bitterness, he didn't want to lose face. Everyone in the building cheered. As expected of young Master Lu, Lu Zixio cupped his hands in front of his chest in all directions. Although his face was a little pale, he had a great spirit of disregarding life and death. His cheers grew louder and louder, as if they were going to break through the terrifying haze that Li Qingshan had cast. Senior Tai, I respect you as a martial arts legend of your generation, but I didn't expect you to be such a despicable person who fawns upon those in power. You really don't know what's good for you. Tai Xiong was anxious and angry. Could it be that he had endured this humiliation just to preserve his own life? I just want to let you know that not everyone is afraid of death. Li Qingshan looked at this scene with a playful expression. Luo Ho Xiaoming woke up from his sleep and said impatiently, "Stop being so noisy. Kill them all." Although the voice was tender and weak, it made the voices in the building quiet down, proving that most people were still afraid of death. Li Qingshan stood up and walked forward. Lu Zixio secretly swallowed his saliva and suddenly felt that his legs were a little weak. He stretched his neck and shouted, "Hero King, even if you can kill me as a person, you can't kill my love for Miss Xian." Before his voice died away, a big hand came at him like a dark cloud. It was so fast that he couldn't react at all. He couldn't help but close his eyes and said, "My life is over. Miss Xian, did you see that?" With a swish, there was no scene of broken tendons or broken bones, no scene of blood splattering, no scene of brains bursting, and no tragic scene of a dead body on the spot. Lu Zixio only felt a chill all over his body, but he didn't feel the slightest pain. He couldn't help but open his eyes and found that everyone was looking at him. A familiar figure appeared on the stage below. Her mouth was slightly open, and her face was full of shock. It was Hu Xian. She never expected to see such a scene as soon as she came out. Lu Zixio stood upstairs naked. It turned out that Li Qingshan's grab did not hurt Lu Zixio at all, but all his clothes were torn off. He was really naked. It's a little small. Li Qingshan looked down with a mysterious smile and returned to his original position, leaving the naked young Master Lu there. Lu Zixio's white face was so red that it seemed like blood was about to drip out. He suddenly let out a hysterical scream and jumped out of the window. Thinking about it, this scene today would definitely repeat itself in his nightmares countless times. Miss Xian. Everyone noticed Hu Xian's arrival. Tai Xiong's face was ashen. This Hu Xian was really daring to come out. She was really a femme fatale. Li Qingshan glanced at Hu Xian'er and hooked his finger at a black-robed young man. Tell me, how is she going to go against me? Demon, I don't know anything. Just kill me. The black-robed young man gritted his teeth. Compared to being so ugly, he would rather die. Chivalrous king, there's no need to interrogate others. Why don't I tell you? Hu Xian'er dragged her long dress and floated up to Li Qingshan. She glanced at the leader of the Five Venoms sect below the table and couldn't help but be stunned. Oh, tell me. Li Qingshan crossed his arms and looked at her from head to toe. He felt a sense of déjà vu. I declare to the world that no matter who takes your life, young or old, married or not, I, Hu Xian'er, am willing to marry him and serve him for the rest of my life. Hu Xian'er held her head high as if she was going to face the danger. She exuded a holy and pure aura that moved everyone present. However, she also revealed her graceful figure. Enemies really don't meet unless they're not enemies. Li Qingshan finally knew that there was such a reason behind it. He walked around Hu Xian'er and said, Your appearance is not bad, your figure is good, and your martial arts are passable. Other than the fact that you're a little venomous, you really fit the bill in every aspect. Venomous. Hu Xian'er's heart skipped a beat. No man had ever evaluated her like this before. It made her feel naked. Luckily, the other party didn't seem to have any killing intent. He wasn't as cruel as the rumors said. As long as he didn't have any perverted thoughts, everything would be easy. She took a deep breath and said, Chivalrous prince, if you want to kill me, do as you please. I, Hu Xian'er, will not resist. However, please spare the innocent people in this building. Her words moved everyone in the building, but they also felt ashamed. He was a man, but he needed a woman to protect him. What kind of man was he? They all pulled out their swords, wanting to fight to the death with Li Qingshan. Everyone, don't be impulsive. Xian'er isn't worth it. She shouted and thought to herself, a bunch of idiots, come and die. Li Qingshan frowned. He didn't see anyone else in his eyes and said to Hu Xian'er, Your thoughts are really vicious. I don't know what chivalrous prince is talking about. Hu Xian'er's eyes suddenly widened. A sharp pain came from her abdomen. Li Qingshan punched her in the stomach and said with a smile, Do you understand now? Hu Xian'er slowly knelt on the ground. She didn't think that he would really hit her. Everyone's eyes widened. They didn't think that a man would actually hit her. Sorry, I couldn't hold back this punch. You remind me of a hateful woman. However, I think you can still be saved. You just lack a lesson. Li Qingshan lifted her sharp chin and said, Although you want to deal with me, I won't kill you. I will give you a great benefit. I will make you one of the top 10 beauties of Pudu Temple to fill the vacancy of the Ma family. Then I will take you in. What do you think? Hu Xian'er was completely speechless. She almost forgot the pain in her body. What kind of great benefit was this? What did he mean by one of the top 10 beauties of Pudu Temple? Tai Xiong's mind was in a mess. What was going on? Did he come south alone for this? Amitba, lady whose virtue is truly admirable. The great chivalrous prince wants to bully a woman like this. How despicable! A low and sorrowful Buddhist chant sounded. A monk and a man stepped into the building. It was Abbot Fuku and the mysterious Void Temple Master. After a round of discussion, Martial Union decided to wait for the hare in the inner city. They were afraid that the hare would come and knock down the tree. However, while others could choose not to come, they couldn't. If they avoided their enemy when they were just inches away, how could they have the face to stand in the pugilistic world? Li Qingshan smiled and said, There really are people who dare to come looking for trouble. Abbot Fuku said, If I don't go to hell, who will? The mysterious Void Temple Master said, Li Qingshan, did you kill my senior brother? Also, the blood feud of Master Fu who must be avenged. Li Qingshan rubbed the back of his head. Who are you guys talking about? Speaking of which, who are you guys? Your Highness? Tai Xiong suddenly spoke, explaining the whole story and the identities of these two people. He then sighed heavily and said, Why did you guys come? Chapter 12:13. Demon. The head of the mystic Void Temple was talking about a blood feud, But Li Qingshan was talking about women. He was infuriated. Look at how angry you are. Your senior brother brought this upon himself. He received so many benefits from me, and now he wants to harm me. He's a dog that won't be tamed. And you, monk, your junior brother can be considered a monk, but he dares to curse? Don't you know what bad words mean? If I don't teach him a lesson on behalf of Buddha, I'll be a monk disciple in vain. Li Qingshan lifted Hu Xian up again and said to Abbot Fuku, as an abbot, your lack of discipline is already a crime punishable by death. However, don't you admire her character? As long as you take her in and become one of the top 10 beauties in the world, I'll spare your life. And you, hurry up and hand over that person, or you'll die too. Hu Xian closed her eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks like raindrops on a pear blossom. It was truly a pitiful sight. Demon, let go of Miss Xian. We'll fight him to the death. The young masters and heroes were enraged. With the support of these two elders, they felt much more courageous. Li Qingshan smacked the back of her head. Stop pretending to cry. Hu Xian's tears flowed even more. I'm not. She hadn't been treated like this in many years. She felt wronged, and she couldn't help but feel afraid when she realized this man wasn't under her control. Then hold it in. Li Qingshan glared, and Hu Xian immediately stopped crying. She pursed her lips and looked pitifully at Li Qingshan. That's right. Today is your wedding day. Li Qingshan smiled and rubbed the back of her head. Hu Xian lowered her head, not saying a word. Demon, die. Just when the young masters and heroes couldn't take it anymore, Abbot Fuku took a horse stance and stretched out his arms. He roared like a great bell, his voice traveling 10 li away. A golden light slammed into Li Qingshan. It's the lion's roar. This roar could directly kill an opponent, and the 7 demons of Yen Mountain had died to this move. He was known as the one roar killed 7 demons. Li Qingshan just shook his head. It sounds like a dog barking. Out of the corner of his eye, Zhang Xian saw Hu Xian covering her ears with a pained look on her face. He did not use her as a shield. It was just a little shock from the aftermath. It shouldn't be like this. Looking down, there was something hanging down from the fiery red dress. Like a big tail, it lowered its head and sniffed hard at her neck. Through the thick makeup and faint body fragrance, it actually smelled a trace of demonic aura. Strange. How could he transform without going through the heavenly tribulation? After transforming, unless he was beaten into his original form, he would not casually reveal his fox tail. But when he thought about it, he realized that Hu Xian was probably the same as Gu Yenying. She was also a hybrid of human and demon, and the fox demon race was innately good at bewitching and illusionary forms, not true transformations. So it's a vixen? What did you say? Hu Xian's body trembled, and her face turned pale as she hurriedly retracted her tail. Everyone felt that Li Qingshan was really crazy. At this time, he still dared to tease Miss Yen. But they could not help but feel that he was indeed worthy of being called the Hero King for being so calm in the face of 2 great experts. At this time, a bolt of lightning illuminated the entire 10,000 flower tower. The mysterious Void Temple Master let out a low roar and used the mysterious Void Temple's supreme technique, the 5 Thunder Palm technique. Lightning leaped between his 2 hands and crackled. Abbot Fuku shattered his kasaya, and his muscles bulged as if they were plated with a layer of gold. However, Li Qingshan did not even look at them. He said to Hu Xian, I said you are a vixen. To others, these words might have sounded like flirting, but Hu Xian's expression dimmed. Knowing that he had seen through her, she did not dare to quibble. She pursed her lips and sent a voice transmission. Since your highness knows that I am not a beauty, why do you not let me go? I think I made the right decision to come here today. Hu Xian saw that there was not a trace of disgust on his face, and that his round eyes were shining. She could not help but feel confused. Was there really a man who did not mind her identity? Abbot Fuku rose from the ground and broke through the floor. He threw out a string of prayer beads, which turned into specks of golden light and whizzed over. This string of prayer beads had a total of 108 beads. They were refined from the relics left behind by the eminent monks of the Pudu Temple. Not only were they astonishingly powerful, they could pierce through stone and iron, but they could also change their trajectory in the air, making it impossible for people to dodge. Throughout history, who knew how many great evils had died to them? The mysterious Void Temple Master's hands danced with lightning, but he flashed to the feet of Li Qingshan, intending to attack from above and below. "Your Highness, let me go first. I will only be a burden to you," Hu Xian'er said anxiously. The lightning and prayer beads already caused her to feel fear from afar. If she was affected by them, she was afraid that she would be exposed. "If these two smelly fish and shrimps can harm a single hair on your head, I will write my Li's character backwards." Li Qingshan's gaze pierced through the thick floor and he pressed down with his right hand. The mysterious Void Temple Master was just about to send out the lightning in his hand, but his right hand suddenly couldn't move. It was nailed into the air, and the lightning in his hand exploded. Lightning is not that fun. The mysterious Void Temple Master and Shui Hanfeng had the same problem. They both wanted to use a powerful move to instantly kill him, so they used their moves to the limit. However, although lightning was powerful, it was the hardest to control. If it was interfered with by a divine ability, it would immediately go out of control and cause a backlash. He looked back at the prayer beads that were attacking him. Isn't it just a set of weak spiritual artifacts? Just as he was about to counterattack, a strong gust of wind came from behind him. The Five Poisons Sect Master, who had been lying on the ground, suddenly leapt up and let out a strange toad-like cry. Surging true energy condensed into a scorpion tail that stabbed towards Li Qingshan's back. Five Poisons Demonic Art. Tai Xiong turned pale with fright. He had also participated in the battle against the Five Poisons Sect, but he had never recognized that the old man lying on the ground was the Five Poisons Sect Master. The Five Poisons Sect Master had been beaten black and blue by Li Qingshan, and he had lost all his teeth. As the saying goes, beat him until his mother doesn't recognize him. Who would have thought that the great demon who had run amok in the world would be lying on the table like a mangy dog? He had also carefully covered his face. If Hu Xian'er hadn't been thinking about him, she definitely wouldn't have recognized him. The Five Poisons Sect Master was at the 10th level of the innate realm. In terms of cultivation, he was actually above Li Qingshan and had long since broken through his meridians. However, after knowing Li Qingshan's identity, how could he dare to act blindly without thinking? After lying on the ground for a long time, he had finally waited for this opportunity and immediately prepared to escape. However, for some reason, when he thought of that beating, a wave of resentment rose in his heart, and he sent out this fatal attack. Without looking at the consequences of this attack, he used the peerless movement technique of the centipede and fled out of the building. Li Qingshan, you dare to disrespect this old man? You brought this upon yourself. I almost forgot about you. Get back here. Li Qingshan didn't even turn his head as he reached out and grabbed out. The Five Poisons Sect Master's figure paused, and the power of hope transformed into a giant hand that grabbed him back and used him as a shield. The Five Poisons Sect Master's eyes widened, a golden light flashing in them. He could only revolve the Five Poisons Demonic Art with all his strength and release his true energy to form a defense. But in a moment of panic, it was comparable to an all-out attack from Abbot Fuku. Chapter 12:14. Text online reading site domain mobile phone reading click 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 click. Blood splattered all over the Five Poisons Sect Master's body. The thick green liquid splattered on the floor, causing a puff of white smoke to rise. Li Qingshan smiled. It was no wonder why his face was so dark. As it turned out, he had refined his blood into poison, turning himself into a poison person. He could kill just by extending his hand. However, with that, the prayer beads would be soaked in poisonous blood, so they would probably be quite damaged. For a mere Qi practitioner to be able to control so many spirit artifacts, he must have refined them into life artifacts. Although they could display astonishing power, if they were damaged, the backlash would be quite severe. Sure enough, the Fu Ku monk's face changed drastically, going from golden to red. A mouthful of blood suddenly sprayed from his mouth, and it splattered several meters away. The golden color on his body dimmed, returning to its normal color. He pointed at Li Qingshan reluctantly. You dash, then he collapsed to the ground and fainted. The mysterious Void Temple Master's body was scorched black. He lay motionless on the ground. Li Qingshan threw the half-dead Five Poisons Sect Master to the ground. The entire building was silent. Everyone looked at Li Qingshan as if they were looking at a monster. In the blink of an eye, the three great experts of the righteous and evil paths had all been defeated by him. It was as easy as playing a game. In truth, he had only truly attacked twice. Abbot Fuku and the mysterious Void Temple Master had both been seriously injured by the backlash. But in the eyes of the bystanders, this kind of method was simply amazing. Hu Xian'er's eyes widened. Li Qingshan suddenly smiled. He lowered his head and deeply kissed her lips, opening her pearly white teeth and tasting her fragrant tongue. Hu Xian'er moaned and closed her eyes. She accepted her fate and did not struggle or resist. Her face was dyed with an intoxicating blush. The youths upstairs and downstairs looked like they had lost their parents, but no one dared to speak again. Li Qingshan said, "I just now. Do you agree?" He then whispered, "If you dare to put on an act again, I will pull out your fox tail." Hu Xian'er lowered her head and said in a mosquito-like voice, "N." Li Qingshan smiled and ordered Tai Xiong to move the mysterious Void Temple Master and Abbot Fuku in a row. The three of them did not die. The backlash from their own techniques and natal spiritual weapons was not enough to kill them. Instead, it was the Five Poison Sect leader who was the most heavily injured. He only had one breath left. The mysterious Void Temple Master and Abbot Fuku woke up. They glared at Li Qingshan. Li Qingshan kicked the master of the Five Venoms cult on the ground. "Oi, stop playing dead. Let's talk about you. Speaking of which, what are you thinking? How dare you attack me? What are you thinking? Why do you still dare to attack me?" He was confined by this world, and his reaction speed was very slow. Although it was not dangerous, it Saint had blocked. Although it wouldn't be dangerous, it would still be embarrassing. Moreover, it would give others an unrealistic feeling that he could also win. The Five Poisons cult master snorted. "Heroic king, please spare my life." This old man, this lowly one, was confused for a moment. "I am willing to join the world under the heavens faction and serve king like a dog." Tai Xiong said, "Why? Absolutely not." The Five Poison Sect's leader was cruel and vicious. He loved to kill the innocent. It will definitely bring shame to Wangya. Li Qingshan said casually, "Then let's kill them." The leader of the Five Poisons Sect hurriedly said, "Your Highness, don't fall into the trap of sowing discord. This old man Tai's body is in the World Guild, but his heart is in Martial Union. I have a deep grudge against Martial Union. The reason I took the risk to come to Black Tortoise City this time is to deal a blow to Martial Union." "Oh, what is it?" Li Qingshan was curious, and he felt Hu Xian'er in his arms tremble slightly. The Five Venom Sect's master said viciously, "I want to poison all the little bastards in this building to death." As soon as he said that, the entire building was in an uproar. If it were not for Li Qingshan's sudden appearance, who would be a match for the Five Venom Sect's sect master? They would all have been killed. How venomous! Tai Xiong sucked in a breath of cold air. Originally, he felt that meeting Li Qingshan was extremely unlucky. Now that he thought about it, if not for Li Qingshan being here, his life would have been in danger as well. On the ground, the mysterious Void Temple Master and Abbot Fuku looked at each other, shock appearing on their faces. They had placed all their attention on Li Qingshan, neglecting the other demons. However, he had been hiding all this time, so how could he know the situation in Black Tortoise City? "Diske, you call this a big matter? If you said that you were going to poison all the people participating in the Martial Union convention to death, I would still give you some respect. What's the big deal about bullying a bunch of little bastards?" Li Qingshan raised his hand, about to slap down. The Five Venom Sect's master shouted, "Niece, save me." Hu Xian'er's body trembled, and she lowered her head in silence. "This is all your plan. If you did not lure me here, how could I have suffered such a disaster? Now that you've climbed up a high branch, you're not even willing to help me? What?" Everyone turned pale with fright. Their gazes converged on Hu Xian'er, filled with disbelief. Heh, I knew you were up to no good. Li Qingshan smacked the back of her head again, then kicked the 5 Venom Sex Master to death. Don't make such bad friends in the future. Miss Xian, this can't be true. Yes, I did it. I took revenge for my mother. Everyone from Martial Union deserves to die. Hu Xian'er's face was filled with hatred. Could you be the illusion dancer's successor? Abbot Fu Ku suddenly came to a realization. Ba, benefactor Hu, your mother used her illusions to incite chaos and slaughter. She deserves to be punished. Also, Benefactor Li, you claim to be the hero king, but you do not know that your actions will bring chaos to the world, and how many people will die because of you. What I'm doing is the same as Buddha, making all living beings equal? No, I'm even higher than Buddha. Buddha only talks about it, but I bring true equality, allowing everyone in the world to have the opportunity to learn peerless martial arts. I'll make all the sects and aristocratic families that oppress all living beings collapse and disintegrate. I'll beat these born noble brats down from the clouds and make them compete with their servants. That's right, I want the world to fall into chaos. Li Qingshan said boldly, not believing in Buddha. Ba, benefactor's demonic nature is so deep that it cannot be purified by Buddha. If you're alive, you'll sink into the sea of bitterness, and if you die, you'll fall into hell, never to be reincarnated. Damn it, you're cursing me now that you can't beat me. Since you can't purify me, find someone else to do it for you. Li Qingshan crouched down and patted his bald head. He pointed at Hu Xian'er beside him. Look at how evil she is. She's in need of the influence of the Buddhist Dharma. Hurry up and accept her as your disciple, and I'll spare your life. Hu Xian'er had a strange expression on her face. He was still talking about this. Suddenly, a smile appeared on her face. Abbot Fu Ku, I'm willing to become a disciple of Pudu Temple and listen to Buddha's teachings every day. The title of Martial World's Top 10 Beauties was a title that even her mother had never obtained. Chapter 12:15. Li Qingshan stood up and shrugged. He raised his right foot and was about to stomp down on the bald head. Your Highness, please wait a moment, Tai Xiong said. Wait for what? Master Fu Ku has always been benevolent. Not only is he a famous figure in the martial arts world, but he also has an extraordinary position in the hearts of tens of thousands of sons of Buddha. If I kill him now, I'm afraid more people will become enemies with the world faction. You mean he can kill me, but I can't kill him? Li Qingshan's expression darkened. Tai Xiong broke out in a cold sweat. He braced himself and said, Your Highness roams the world. Who can stop you? But there's no benefit in killing him, so why kill him? I can persuade the master again. Who knows, he might change his mind in a few days. All right, for the sake of compassion, I'll give you 4 days. At that time, if he's not willing to turn back, even if all the sons of Buddha are standing in front of me, I'll definitely kill him. Li Qingshan retracted his foot. Tai Xiong heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly helped Abbot Fu Ku up and channeled his vital energy to heal. Abbot Fu Ku kowtowed and thanked him. Li Qingshan let them be. This kind of injury couldn't be healed in a few days. Since this monk still wanted to live, he might change his mind. He said to the mysterious Void Temple head, It's your turn. The mysterious Void Temple head was heavily injured. His body emitted a burnt smell. The backlash of the power of lightning wasn't easy to bear. He knew he would lose this battle before he came, but he didn't expect to lose so miserably. Li Qingshan asked Hu Xian'er, What's the name of the beauty of mysterious Void Temple? Yang Miaozhen, also known as Fairy Miaozhen. Is it not enough to have me? Hu Xian'er lowered her head, seemingly angry and resentful. Heh, don't give me that. We've only known each other for less than 2 hours. Why are you pretending to be so affectionate? Of course it's not enough to have you. We're going to gather the world's top 10 beauties. Besides, you're not the world's top beauty. Go away. Li Qingshan's tone didn't sound like he was hunting. Instead, he sounded like a child who was determined to gather a set of cards and let go of Hu Xian'er who didn't belong to the set. Hu Xian'er pouted. What a weirdo. Li Qingshan said to the mysterious Void Temple Master, Oxnose, hand over your disciple Yang Miaozhen in exchange for your life. Devil, don't even think about it. Li Qingshan immediately raised his foot and pointed at Tai Xiong. Shut up. Tai Xiong was about to open his mouth to persuade him, but he could only shut his mouth when he heard this. Look at how smart this master is. He didn't even say a word. Those who drown are good at swimming, and those who are beaten to death are those who talk back. The chivalrous prince, Yang Miaozhen, is here. Please show mercy. A female Taoist wearing a crown walked in from outside. She had an indifferent expression on her face. She was tall and had no makeup on. Her gait was like that of a crane, and she looked very elegant. Oh, another one. Li Qingshan smiled. In less than 2 days, he had already gotten 3 of the top 10 beauties. His progress could be said to be godly. Yang Miaozhen climbed up the tall building with an indifferent expression. She bowed to Li Qingshan and the mysterious Void Temple Master respectively, as if she did not see the miserable state the mysterious Void Temple Master was in. Good, you're here to exchange for this Oxnose's life, right? Li Qingshan asked. Miaozhen, no, I'd rather die. The mysterious Void Temple Master said. Yang Miaozhen lightly shook her head. Not at all. Then you're here to collect his corpse. Not at all. I want to play a game of chess with Prince. Chess? This 10,000 flower pavilion is a place of elegance. This Huxian often tests people here with the 4 arts. It is difficult to determine who is better in the 4 arts, so we can only fight on this chessboard. If I win, please let him go immediately. If I lose, he will belong to Prince from now on, and I will not go back on my word. Regardless of whether Yang Miaozhen won or lost, her expression was indifferent. Li Qingshan said, if I stretch out my hand, do you think you can escape? What's the point of playing chess? It's easy to suppress others with force, but it's difficult to win them over with virtue. Just now, after listening to Prince's righteous words, I feel deep admiration in my heart and wish I could follow you. However, my cultivation comes from the mysterious Void Temple, so how can I just leave like this? I have to put in some effort. I believe that Prince is a virtuous person and will not disappoint Miaozhen. If Prince is not good at chess, you can ask Miss Huxian to do it for you. Her chess skills are also famous. Yang Miaozhen spoke tirelessly, neither servile nor overbearing. This kind of attitude could actually arouse a man's desire to conquer her. Li Qingshan smiled and said, you really know how to talk. If I win against you, I won't start a massacre if I'm happy. Regardless of the outcome, I'll protect this Oxnose's life and even give myself a chance to win. Prince is wise and far-sighted, far surpassing me. Presumably, your chess skills are also far superior to mine. Hu Xian'er whispered, Prince, be careful not to be tricked. My chess skills. Li Qingshan drank the wine in the pot in one gulp and then waved his hand to clear the table. Bring the chessboard. A moment later, the blue-clothed maid brought the chessboard over and threw herself into Hu Xian'er's arms. Elder sister, is this your younger sister? Li Qingshan asked. Reporting to Prince, she is. What's her name? Hu Ling. Take good care of her. If I accidentally kill a beauty, at least I'll have a backup. Yang Miaozhen's eyes flashed. Li Qingshan snickered inwardly. She wasn't as calm as she looked. The two of them sat facing each other and were supposed to play first. Yang Miaozhen said, Prince's chess skills must be extremely high. Could you allow me to play first with black? Up to you. Although I haven't played many games, it's more than enough to beat you. The mysterious Void Temple Master was lying on the ground, sneering inwardly. This demon had such big words, but he didn't know how good Yang Miaozhen's chess skills were. Chess skills were different from martial arts. It depended on one's talent. Yang Miaozhen had a cold temperament and had no interest in martial arts. Besides cultivation, she was only obsessed with chess. When she was 13 years old, she won against the mysterious Void Temple Master. After she turned 15, she never lost again. At this time, a gust of wind blew into the building. A young girl came riding the wind and directly went upstairs from the window. She cupped her hands and said, Your Highness, Elder Sister Yang, can I also play? You are? Li Qingshan asked. This little girl is Zhang Xianfeng from the Divine Wind sect. I happen to be one of the top 10 beauties. Zhang Xianfeng had changed into a man's outfit. She looked valiant and heroic, but her heart was filled with bitterness. She hadn't come here willingly. A moment ago, she had wanted to escape from the city and get as far away from Li Qingshan as possible. However, she had been caught by Zhang Yuntian and sent here to be a gambling stakes. "Oh, what do you want to bet with me?" Li Qingshan smiled. It really had come to him without any effort at all. "Let's bet on the saber behind your highness." Zhang Yuntian stood at the top of the inner city wall, looking in the direction of the myriad flower pavilion. Before Li Qingshan obtained that saber, he did not have such strength. He had relied on brute force to break open the city gates and a bloody battle to capture Galloping Horse City. "Xianfeng, don't blame your master for being heartless. This concerns the life and death of the entire martial union. Since Li Qingshan has the heart to collect the top 10 beauties, with your intelligence and dexterity, keeping your life should not be difficult." Chapter 12:16. A beam of red light soared into the sky, tearing through the night sky. Killing intent swept through like a gale. Zhang Yuntian's expression changed. That was from the direction of Myriad Flower Tower. Did he attack? But just now, 2 top experts had entered and fought with him, but there was no such change. What did Xianfeng do to anger him? Li Qingshan was not angered. The one who was angered was the wildflower saber soul. The killing intent that erupted instantly turned Myriad Flower Tower into a Shura killing field. Everyone's expression changed. Some even wailed in fear. Yang Miaozhen could no longer remain calm. There seemed to be thousands of soldiers roaring in her mind. Her body trembled like a leaf in the wind. Many of the young masters in the tower crawled under the table. They could not resist the terrifying killing intent. Zhang Xuanfeng's face turned pale. He involuntarily retreated and fell on his butt. Li Qingshan grabbed the saber hilt. "Don't be so agitated." Just now, the violent killing intent was slightly restrained. He said to Zhang Xianfeng, "Little girl, you are not worthy to bet with my saber." "Yes, I am not worthy. Goodbye, Sister Yang. Take care." Zhang Xianfeng jumped up and turned to escape. "Stop right there. Do you still want to leave after saying such arrogant words?" Li Qingshan's lips curled up. "You are not worthy to bet with my saber. But look, there is a monk here. He is Abbot Fu Ku of Pudu Temple. If you can win him back, he will definitely thank you. If you place your bet, leave your hand." "Yes." Zhang Xianfeng turned around with a sad face and slowly walked to Yang Miaozhen's side. Abbot Fu Ku put his palms together. "Amitabha. Thank you, almsgiver Zhang, for saving this poor monk. No need to be so polite, Abbot. This is what I should do." "Who would want to save an old monk?" Zhang Xianfeng said again, "Your Highness, why don't we make the chessboard public and let the people in the city see your Highness's superb chess skills? Are you afraid that I am cheating? Fine, up to you." A moment later, a large chessboard made of cloth hung outside the tower. With a clang, a black piece fell on the board. Yang Miaozhen made the first move. "Your Highness, please. What is the name of the saber behind your Highness?" "End of the road wildflower." Li Qingshan casually put down a piece. "The end of the hero. This name is a little inauspicious." Yang Miaozhen glanced at him. This step was completely out of order. Could it be that he really doesn't know how to play chess? After pondering for a moment, he decided to go his own way. The saber is a weapon of murder. How can it be auspicious? He was a hero. What's there to be afraid of? Li Qingshan placed his chess piece again. He didn't even think about it. "I wonder who His Highness is. What kind of martial arts do you practice?" "I'm not practicing martial arts." "Aren't you the same?" "Your Highness can tell that I don't like to fight with others. That's why I don't like martial arts. Instead, I cultivate the supreme mystery scripture of Taoism." Yang Miaozhen's hand that was holding the chess piece paused slightly. She revealed a surprised expression. The other person walked the same path as her. She paid a great price for her cultivation. She didn't take a step out of the Xuanshu Temple for 20 years because she didn't have the ability to protect herself. When she went to Jianghu, it was very likely that she wouldn't be a match for a postnatal expert. She also never participated in the sex martial arts competitions. She didn't even want to fight with others, even if she was mocked behind her back for having a body full of true qi but not knowing how to use it. She believed that she walked a brilliant path and looked down on those competitive martial artists. She thought that they were just a bunch of wild dogs fighting for food. That was why she was probably the person who cared the least about Li Qingshan's reputation. At most, she thought that he was just a vicious wolf. Until this moment, you have a good temperament and are suitable for cultivation. Li Qingshan glanced at her. Under the deterrence of the wildflower saber's murderous aura, she was the fastest to recover. Her temperament was very good. Actually, from the moment she stepped into the building, he could feel that her temperament was different from ordinary people. She was closer to a cultivator than a martial artist. Although there was no clear boundary between practicing martial arts and cultivation, their fundamental goals were completely different. Practicing martial arts was to defeat the enemy, while cultivating qi was to live a long life. One was brave and ruthless, while the other was to cultivate one's character. The latter's path was naturally longer, but in this small world, it was clearly not as practical as the former. If one couldn't survive one battle after another, how could one talk about living a long life? If Yang Miaozhen didn't come from a large sect like the Xuanshu Temple, she wouldn't have the qualifications to make such a choice. She wouldn't even have seen a decent qi refinement method. He taught the Gui water condensation method to Xue Bing because her identity allowed her to not pursue her current strength. Instead, she would be able to pursue a longer-term development and have a greater chance of transcending tribulation and ascending. She's just naturally cold, Yang Miaozhen said. This was the evaluation that many people gave her. A warm-hearted person is not suitable for cultivation. The path of a martial artist is very exciting, but the path of cultivation is destined to be lonely. It was rare to meet a cultivator in this small world. Li Qingshan couldn't help but look at her in a different light. With her talent and temperament, if she had been born in the 9 prefectures, she would definitely have greater development. I originally didn't believe that Your Highness would walk the same path as me, but now I have no choice but to believe. But, Your Highness, are you lonely? If I'm not lonely, why would I stir up trouble and make the world restless? Li Qingshan said frankly. Trapped in this small world, even if he could do whatever he wanted, he was still a prisoner. Separated from little, and even if there were millions of people cheering and worshipping him, he was still lonely. Yang Miaozhen revealed a surprised smile. If I had the ability, I might be like Your Highness. You will have the ability, or at least be stronger than everyone here. This old man's life isn't worth risking yourself. Coincidentally, last night, I also said similar words to someone else. Was it Miss Xue Bing? That's right. Then, Your Highness, what did you use in exchange? Qi training technique? Qi training technique? Is it similar to the Taishan scripture? Recite the Taishan scripture for me. Yang Miaozhen hesitated for a moment before reciting it. In the Xuanshu Temple, the Taishan scripture wasn't really a secret. Outer disciples could comprehend it as they pleased, but no one was willing to practice it. Li Qingshan listened quietly. He found that it was similar to the innate qi condensation technique that he had practiced in the beginning. At least, the innate qi condensation technique was simple and straightforward. It could only be regarded as an introductory course for cultivators. It wasn't like the Taishan scripture, which was extremely mysterious and didn't even know how high the sky was or how deep the earth was. It's hard to understand, full of nonsense, making something that was originally simple complicated. Perhaps the author didn't understand it. After casually pointing out a few mistakes, Yang Miaozhen suddenly felt enlightened. Her eyes shone with naivety. So it was this technique that had a problem. If the head of the Xuanshu Temple wasn't lying on the side, perhaps he would have changed the bet to a qi training technique. If you win, I'll give you a technique, but unfortunately, you've already lost. Chapter 12:17. Yang Miaozhen looked at the chessboard. It was not the middle of the game yet, and she had the upper hand, trapping his big dragon. The white chess pieces were still disorderly and scattered. Zhang Xianfeng couldn't help but say, Your Highness, don't trick us. Who knows how many people are watching this game? If you don't believe me, then continue. Li Qingshan blinked his eyes and returned to his playful and mischievous self. He picked up a pot of wine and gulped it down. He already knew the entire game of chess. He had not played many games of chess before. In the beginning, he just played randomly, but afterwards, he used the divine talisman of great creation to power the spirit turtle transformation. Compared to the complexity and profoundness of formations, deriving the variations of a game of chess was as simple as it could get. Yang Miaozhen deliberated over her next move, but she appeared even more cautious. Li Qingshan did not even think about it and casually agreed. He was bored of waiting and asked Zhang Xianfeng, "Isn't the sect leader of Divine Wind sect the Wulin Alliance leader Zhang Yuntian?" "It's my master." "Oh, he sent you to test me?" Zhang Xianfeng was speechless. "Your master is really a good-for-nothing." Zhang Xianfeng expressed his agreement, but he was very worried. Yang Miaozhen's chess moves became slower and slower. Her body leaned forward slightly, clearly putting all her effort into the game, but her brows furrowed deeper and deeper. It was as if there was an invisible force suppressing the chessboard. No matter how she struggled, she could not escape from the other party's trap. Halfway through the game, Li Qingshan said, "If you don't admit defeat now, you'll be struggling at death's door." Yang Miaozhen admitted defeat and took off the yellow crown on her head, letting her fine black hair flow freely. This was to show that he had become a monk and returned to secular life. "Your Highness's skill in chess is the best I've ever seen in my life." Miaozhen is sincerely convinced. "From now on, I'm Prince's woman." At this point, she couldn't help but blush. After all, she was a young woman. However, Miaozhen still has a presumptuous request. "You want me to let this ox nose go?" "That's not it. How could I dare to make such a request? I only wish for your Highness to bestow upon me the qi refinement method so that I can continue cultivating." Yang Miaozhen bowed deeply to the head of the mysterious void temple. "Miaozhen is incompetent, she can't save him." "This can't be blamed on you. I hope you can take care of yourself," the mysterious void temple had said. "If anyone thinks that you don't know the ways of the world, then they're the dumbest." Oxnose. "Fortunately, you have a good disciple. I'll spare your life today. Go back and think about it. Do you want to throw the profound void temple into the tribulation flames for a personal grudge? Burn everything to ashes." Li Qingshan laughed heartily. He picked up the mysterious void temple master and threw him out of the window. At this moment, over 1,000 people had gathered outside the building. Someone hurriedly caught the mysterious void temple lord and sent him back to the inner city. If he didn't dare to punish them, he would only be seen as weak and easily bullied. However, if he were to kill indiscriminately, it would only incite more hatred and resistance. In the end, the situation would be completely out of control under the influence of the will of the heavens. Li Qingshan didn't have any killing intent in his heart. He didn't intend to kill anyone on this trip south. The 5 poison sect master had fallen into his hands and courted death again and again. It wasn't a bad idea to use him to establish his might. He came to the balcony and said loudly, "Listen up, people of the world. I, Li Qingshan, will change this world. There will no longer be nobility or lowliness, class or oppression, sex or aristocratic families. Everyone will be able to create their own careers with their own 2 hands. If you want to learn peerless martial arts, go to the north." These words were like a hot summer wind blowing through the crowd and the entire city. Who didn't want to learn peerless martial arts? However, even if they were from aristocratic families or sects, how many of them were qualified to learn peerless martial arts? And this hero king Li Qingshan wasn't a murderous demon king like the rumors said. Instead, he had uncovered a huge conspiracy, killed the 5 poison sect master, and saved everyone in the building. Li Qingshan glanced at the inner city wall. It was empty. Zhang Yuntian was no longer there. He turned around and waved his hand. "Go. Don't forget what happened today. Good and evil, right and wrong, how can we just look at the surface?" The young heroes in the building felt as if they had been pardoned and fled the building. However, a few of them bowed to thank Li Qingshan. A seed had been planted in the heart of the martial arts world. It would eventually take root and sprout, destroying the entire martial arts world. Amitba, the world is in chaos. Abbot Fu Ku sighed. "What you gave was exquisite dharma. happiness in the afterlife. What I gave was peerless martial arts, the power of the present. Why don't we see who is more compassionate? Hero King, I can take this almsgiver who is my disciple, but the ceremony can only be held when we return to Pudu Temple's Mahavira Hall. Abbot Fuku lowered his eyes. Li Qingshan blinked and said with a smile, "That's a good monk. But don't worry, this Black Tortoise City is also a historical city. Since you're here, how can you not visit it? Rest well, master. Tomorrow, take me to the inner city to have a look." That night, Li Qingshan stayed in Hu Xian-er's embroidery building to teach this evil vixen a lesson. Yang Miaozhen visited quietly, wanting to ask for the qi refinement method. She glanced out of the corner of her eye and saw a child sitting outside the door. It was the child who often followed Li Qingshan. He was holding his cheeks in boredom, thinking about something. Hu Lingge was squatting on the other side of the door, covering her ears with her hands, her face red. Yang Miaozhen also heard the sound coming from the room. She couldn't help but blush and spit. When she thought that she would face the same fate, her Taoist heart couldn't stay calm. She hurriedly walked back to the room. Zhang Xianfeng was waiting for her there. "Sister Yang, you're back. Let's leave while that devil is messing around with the demoness. We lost, how can we leave? If we just leave like this, His Highness will definitely vent his anger on Xuanshu Temple and Divine Wind Sect." Yang Miaozhen didn't seem to care much about keeping promises and sects, but she was still concerned about the qi refinement method. In any case, the other party was a cultivator. No one could understand her feelings. It was like finding an oasis in a desert, and she was able to believe in her own Tao. "Forget it, if you don't leave, I'll leave. I don't want to do that kind of thing with a monkey." Zhang Xianfeng jumped out of the window and flew away. "Monkey?" Yang Miaozhen couldn't help but laugh. Thinking about it, he really did look like a monkey, but his spirit always made him forget what he looked like. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Xianfeng flew back. An old man stood outside the window and said in a deep voice, "Miss Zhang, if His Highness hears this, you'll suffer." Zhang Xianfeng was shocked and angry. "Senior Tai, what are you doing here instead of watching Abbot Fuku? His Highness said that the monk can run, but the temple can't. He only told me to watch you. You're helping a villain." Although she was one of the few experts of the younger generation, she was naturally no match for Tai Xiong. "You insisted on coming to gamble, what does it have to do with me? Since I've joined the World Conference, I should be loyal to my duty. This is also for the sake of the martial arts world." Tai Xiong said expressionlessly. If Zhang Xianfeng escaped, Li Qingshan would definitely go to Divine Wind Sect to hunt him down. Divine Wind Sect's sect master Zhang Yuntian just happened to be the Martial Union's alliance master. In the end, who knew what kind of trouble would be stirred up? If they were not careful, rivers of blood would flow. He had to consider the overall situation and nip this danger in the bud. What an iron-faced judge, I won't leave. To be continued. Chapter 12-18. Inside the red candle tent, Hu Xian-er was obedient after being taught a lesson. She meekly lay in Li Qingshan's arms, panting lightly. Her white and tender skin was dyed with a layer of red. Her large eyes narrowed into a pair of seductive eyes, but the color of her eyes had become orange fox eyes. Li Qingshan's large hand traced down her smooth and wet back, grabbing onto a fluffy red fox tail. Her pointy fox ears trembled, and she coquettishly said, "Don't touch this lowly one's tail." "I want to touch it." Li Qingshan grabbed and twisted, stubbornly like this. "Is Prince not afraid of this lowly one's appearance?" Hu Xian-er raised her fox ears. "What's there to be afraid of?" Li Qingshan said disapprovingly. She could be considered to have perfectly retained the characteristics of a human, but this made her look even more wild and seductive. Hu Xian-er covered her mouth and laughed. "That's right, Prince is similar to me, like a baboon. If you don't dislike me, I won't dislike you either." "You're the one who's like a baboon." Li Qingshan not only retorted with his mouth, but also his hands. He grabbed the red fox tail and slapped her buttocks, leaving a clear palm print. "Li Qingshan, I've already given myself to you, but you still hit me." Hu Xian-er's face was full of grievance. In her life, which man wasn't polite to her, But this man just had to hit her without any tenderness for the fairer sex? I hit you for your own good, to help you correct your evil intentions. Li Qingshan yawned, using her legs as a pillow, and said without sincerity, "How was my evil intentions? I did it to avenge my mother." Hu Xian'er immediately straightened her back, and her breasts trembled slightly. "Your mother is the phantom dancer, right? Didn't you hear the monks say that your mother caused chaos in the martial arts world? Serves you right to die." It was clearly that group of men who were lustful and killed each other. "How can you blame my mother?" Hu Xian'er bit her lips, and her breasts rose and fell. "Heh, you dare say that your mother didn't deliberately provoke them? Do you think I don't know the temperament of demons? Since you're already dead, there's no need to dwell on it." Li Qingshan could completely imagine what a fox demon that did not abide by human etiquette would do. Not to mention being dissolute, even a normal woman would want to entice a group of stupid men to fight for her, let alone a fox demon that was proficient in illusions. The group of spare tires fought to the death. It was to bring chaos to the martial arts world. My mother's illusions are invincible. If she wasn't betrayed, how could she have died? Hu Xian'er's face was filled with sadness. Betrayed by your father? How did you know? Otherwise, it wouldn't be considered a betrayal. Playing with other people's feelings and in the end being played with. This could be considered retribution. Speaking of which, your father was also wronged. If that's what I'm doing. If he suddenly found a fox in his bed, he would definitely be so angry that he wanted to kill someone. Li Qingshan felt a chill just thinking about it. You're talking nonsense. My mother once consumed a stalk of transformation grass. She was no different from a human, but later, she accidentally revealed her true form. Transformation grass. Li Qingshan's eyes lit up. Do you have more? It had to be said that as the ape demon transformation continued to improve, he was indeed becoming more and more like an ape. It was no longer just at the level of having a strange appearance. He himself did not mind, but if he continued to transform, he would definitely be treated as a demon like the White Ape King. Under the influence of the heavens, it would definitely become a form of rejection and opposition, which would be detrimental to his process of unifying the world. Of course there's more, but you have to first admit that my mother didn't deserve to die, Hu Xian'er insisted. Li Qingshan glared at her. I think you're itching for a beating again. Hu Xian'er's face was full of resentment. Sigh, can't you treat me better? Fine, I'll tell you. My mother once left 2 stalks of transformation grass for us sisters, along with all the treasures she had accumulated throughout her life. They were all devoured by that man, so the transformation grass is useless to humans. I'm sure she still has it. All right, when we get to the Pudu temple, we'll immediately go look for the transformation grass and kill that heartless father of yours to avenge your mother. How's that? I'm good enough for you, right? Really? That's great. Hu Xian'er threw herself into Li Qingshan's arms and cupped his face in her hands. Your Highness, I'm already yours. Please don't betray me. Don't worry, why would I betray you? You won't be able to sell them for much. Hu Xian'er was so angry that her long, shapely eyebrows were raised. She wanted nothing more than to bite him. Li Qingshan laughed heartily. He turned her over and pressed her under his body. The world is vast and the Tao is boundless. We'll eventually be separated. Come and enjoy yourself with me. At least we didn't meet in vain. Hu Xian'er let out a low moan as she endured his invasion and conquest. She stared at the slightly comical ape face and silently said, I know you won't betray me because you don't care about it. You've never put me in your eyes. It's just a game. You even hit me, scolded me, and bullied me. But if I say that I'm sincere, I'm afraid you'll laugh at me for pretending. On the snowy mountain, Xuebing was meditating and cultivating. She was transforming the blizzard qi in her body into Gui water qi. Li Qingshan's words seemed to contain some kind of magic. The Gui water qi condensation method flowed in her mind without missing a single word. This technique might not be some kind of secret technique, but it was born in a world of cultivators. After thousands of generations of refinement, it perfectly balanced the difficulty and speed of cultivation. It also didn't demand too much of the cultivator's natural endowments. It could be considered one of the most universal techniques. To some extent, it was even more valuable than the boundless ocean art that Li Qingshan had cultivated. At least it was more suitable for this world. During the day, she discussed it with her father. Shui Hanfeng was also full of praise. He said that although the lethality of this method was not as good as the blizzard sword art, it was gradual, well-prepared, and had a deep understanding of the way of water. It had a greater chance of reaching the innate 10th tier, or even the void-breaking realm. Moreover, the attached spells were very strange and ingenious. If used properly, the power might be even stronger than martial arts. If her blizzard chi condensation method was not close to completion, she would definitely switch to this set of methods. But she spoke out the concerns in her heart. Li Qingshan had forced her to buy and sell. Shui Hanfeng could only sigh. It's my incompetence that I can't protect you. As for whether or not to cultivate this set of methods, it's up to you. But I think this Lord Chivalrous has a loose temperament. He likes to joke, but he is not a lecher. If you refuse, he probably won't use force. You can still marry your senior brother. Haven't you always liked him? Marry my senior brother? No, the meaning of my life is not to marry and have children. I am more important than the Snow Mountain sect to give birth to the next leader. This was the belief instilled in her by that man. Besides, there was no Snow Mountain sect anymore. So she decided to start cultivating the Gui water chi condensation method. She completely transformed her chi into the Gui water chi condensation method. Then she couldn't help thinking, is this an exchange? I don't know when he will come to collect the debt. What should I do then? Then she thought with some disappointment, I don't know where he went. Is he in danger? Or maybe it was just a joke. He has already left me behind. For the first time in her life, she understood the feeling of lovesickness. Once upon a time, the mountain village boy who looked at a beautiful woman from afar also had the charm to make people fall in love at first sight. Even though the current him was like a wild monkey. To be continued. Chapter 12:19. Yang Miaozhen sat on a praying mat as the morning sun shone into the room. This set of skills is called E-Wood Vitality Method. Listen carefully. Li Qingshan held a bowl of soy milk in his left hand and a meat bun in his right. He ate and drank while passing down the E-Wood Vitality art. After he was done, he ordered Abbot Fuku to lead the way to the martial union in the inner city. Along the way, they attracted the attention of the entire city. The streets on both sides of the street were filled with people, coming to see the legendary hero king. Hu Xian'er, Yang Miaozhen, and Zhang Xianfeng attracted even more attention. Hu Xian'er walked with light steps, looking fragile. This was the aftermath of being taught a lesson. Yang Miaozhen's mind wandered, focusing on comprehending the essence of the E-Wood Vitality art. Zhang Xianfeng frowned, looking left and right from time to time, looking for a chance to escape. However, when the group arrived at the inner city, there was no one in the city. Giant trees towered into the sky, casting their shade on the red walls and green tiles. Only the sound of cicadas could be heard. It was a desolate place. Li Qingshan laughed aloud and wandered around the city randomly. He saw a large statue that was consecrated in an ancestral hall. A valiant young man wielded a sword in his right hand and held an imperial seal in his left, sitting on a throne. There were 2 rows of statues below. There were monks and Taoists of both genders, standing upright like subjects serving their king. The last one was the current alliance master, Zhang Yuntian. What is this place? Abbot Fuku said, this is the Martial Union Hall, where the past alliance masters are worshipped. What about the one in the middle? It's the first alliance master, Long Padian, who created it. Before Abbot Fuku could finish, Li Qingshan had already walked up. He kicked the statue over, shattering it into pieces on the ground. Monk, I know you're not willing to submit, but if you dare play any tricks, the statue in the temple will be destroyed. Abbot Fuku was silent. All right, let's go to Pudu Temple. The alarm in Pudu Temple rang. 108 martial monks held their staffs and set up an Arhat formation. All the experts in the temple gathered together, waiting. The sun was high up in the sky. The sun was blazing. All the monks were sweating. He didn't know if it was because of the heat or because he was nervous. At the very least, there were a few senior monks who had stepped into the innate realm who were not afraid of the cold and heat. However, no one would feel that it was a disgrace to have such a performance. It was just that the name of the demon was too famous. He had forced the Snow Mountain sect to surrender. He captured Abbot Fuku and the mysterious Void Temple Master in 2 or 3 moves. Shi Feng had killed the leader of the Demonic Path's 5 Poison sect and forced the entire martial union into retreat by himself. Who wouldn't be afraid of such a person? Now, Pudu Temple was about to face a catastrophe that had not been seen in 100 years. No one knew if there would be any survivors after today. A gray-robed monk hurried to the Hall of Great Strength. He no longer cared about etiquette and said in a panic, "The devil has reached the foot of the mountain." Again. Yes. A moment later, another gray-robed monk rushed over. "The devil has arrived at the mountain gate." Again. However, after 2 hours, the devil finally reached the mountainside. The sun rose high in the sky. The monks became more and more impatient. They believed that this was a psychological attack, deliberately stalling for time to put pressure on them. Moreover, it had succeeded. Many of the monks' robes were drenched, and they looked as if they had just been fished out of water. Their morale was greatly reduced. That demon must be afraid of using such despicable methods. An old monk asserted. That's right. Order the disciples not to relax. Don't fall for that demon's trap. However, this had nothing to do with Li Qingshan. It was Hu Xian'er who had repeatedly complained that she wanted to rest. Last night, she had experienced her first experience. Even with her half-fey body, she had been tormented. Moreover, she had rushed all the way from Black Tortoise City to here. She was completely exhausted. No matter how overbearing Li Qingshan was, he couldn't force her. Forget it. Today is your wedding day. If you want to rest, then rest. He could only slowly walk up the mountain. He didn't look like he was here to cause trouble, but more like a mountain climber on a sightseeing tour. Finally, at 3 in the afternoon, Li Qingshan stepped into the temple. The sun was already setting in the west. He ignored the monks in the temple and walked all the way to the Hall of Great Strength. He turned back and said to Abbot Fuku, "We're here." The Arhat formation surrounded them, and they could no longer retreat. They were ready to go. In front of the Hall of Great Strength, the old monks said together, "Greetings, Abbot." Abbot Fuku ordered, "All of you, stand down." Even though the monks were unwilling, they couldn't disobey. They thought to themselves, is the abbot really going to submit to the demon? Smoke curled up in the hall. The giant Buddha's eyes were half closed, overlooking all living beings. His golden body shone brilliantly. Hu Xian also felt a trace of awe in her heart. She didn't dare to be negligent and knelt at the feet of the giant Buddha. Abbot Fuku ordered someone to bring a razor. Hu Xian immediately covered her fine black hair and looked at Li Qingshan pleadingly. There's no need to shave her head. Let her be a layman disciple. Li Qingshan waved his hand. Abbot Fuku didn't say anything else. He asked solemnly, Hu Xian, as long as you live, do not lie. Can you uphold it now? Hu Xian hesitated for a moment and glanced at Li Qingshan. She whispered, Li Qingshan also said, if you can't, then you can't. It's really difficult to make a fox demon not lie. It's wishful thinking to make a woman not lie. Next one. As long as you live, do not steal. Can you uphold it now? Hu Xian became bolder when she saw that someone was backing her. Abbot Fuku didn't waste any time and continued, as long as you live, do not kill. Can you uphold it now? Hu Xian shouted. She still had a great feud to settle, so how could she not kill? Abbot Fuku closed his eyes. As long as you live, do not lust. Can you uphold it now? Li Qingshan laughed aloud. That's obviously impossible. All right, that's it. Abbot Fuku opened his eyes and said coldly, Almsgiver Hu, since you can't follow any of these Buddhist commandments, forgive me for not accepting you as a disciple. Tai Xiong's expression changed drastically. He shouted, Master? Hu Xian was stunned. She sneered in her heart. I'll kill all of you bald donkeys. Zhang Xianfeng pondered. Will I have a chance to escape when things get chaotic later? Yang Miaozhen was still deep in thought and didn't notice the changes in the outside world. The smile on Li Qingshan's face didn't change. Good monk, use whatever moves you have. Don't tell me that you're just stubborn. Buddha is merciful. Subdue the demon. Abbot Fu Ku put his palms together. His voice was loud and majestic, reverberating in the hall of great strength. The Buddha behind him surged with golden light. It turned into a golden ocean and swallowed Li Qingshan. Power vow. Li Qingshan's eyes reflected the golden light. Pudu Temple was not only a 1,000-year-old ancient temple, but it was also the Buddhist holy land of this world. The power of vow gathered here was like a mountain or an ocean. Although there weren't many changes, this terrifying power was enough to make Li Qingshan not underestimate it even if he wasn't confined by the world, let alone now. Abbot Fu Ku activated all of it. He wanted to kill Li Qingshan at all costs. His expression was ferocious. Chapter 12:20. When Li Qingshan was still young, he had once witnessed the Peachwood prayer sword in the Dragon's Gate sect. It was only worshipped by the disciples of the sect day and night, but its power was already extremely startling, completely exceeding the abilities of cultivators. Afterwards, he witnessed the fearless great Buddha in the Chan monastery of Devanaga. If it were not for little An's Buddha-slaying sword, he would basically be invincible. If he still did not know how to be vigilant after suffering twice, then he would be wasting the ape demon's cleverness. However, he was also taking a gamble by coming to the Grand Hall. He was gambling that the people of this world did not possess the ability to convert the power of belief into a killing move. At most, they could only unleash it like this, and they would not be able to control it. This was not a power that Qi practitioners could control in the first place. And he won the bet. Such an ownerless item, please lend it to me for a while. Li Qingshan took out the divine talisman of great creation and plunged it into the golden sea with a trail of rainbow light. It immediately dyed the sea red and purple. He said sternly, "Evolve." The mountainous power of belief turned into surging spiritual qi and surged towards him. The dense light was visible to the naked eye, rushing out of the grand hall and competing with the sun. The overwhelming spiritual qi did not originate from the power of belief in the divine talisman of great creation and did not belong to Li Qingshan, but it was not affected by the confinement of the world either. Li Qingshan opened his mouth and sucked in a deep breath. He swallowed the surging spiritual qi and powered the ape demon transformation at full strength, converting the spiritual qi into cultivation. The ape demon transformation suited his personality very well. He had basically comprehended the first layer already. What he lacked right now were spiritual qi resources. With an ape's howl, Li Qingshan's fur grew at a visible rate. His arms became thicker and longer. A hairy face with a thunderous mouth already resembled an ape's. There was even a tail protruding from the back of his bottom. His form was closer to an ape demon than a human. The spiritual qi condensed from the millennia of power of belief was so turbulent. Li Qingshan had only forcefully devoured a third of it, yet he already felt like he had eaten too much and could not digest it in time. Even with his tough body, this was already his limit. The surging spiritual qi dispersed. Li Qingshan said to the dumbfounded Hu Xian'er and the others, "Don't just stand there. This is a benefit." Hu Xian'er immediately reacted and began to meditate. Yang Miaozhen took this opportunity. After converting all the Taishan genuine qi in his body into Yiwud genuine qi, his Dantian sea of qi suddenly became empty, but it was immediately filled with spiritual qi. Zhang Xianfeng didn't want to run anymore. He would be a bastard if he didn't take advantage of the situation. Tai Xiong was overjoyed. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. Even the young fox demoness, Hu Linge, could not be bothered to maintain her human form. When Abbot Fu Ku saw that his ultimate move could not do anything to Li Qingshan, he fell to the ground. His face was ashen as he shouted, "All monks, listen up. Slay the demon." More than a dozen figures rushed out from the back of the temple. All of them were innate masters. The glorious temple was filled with murderous intent. The one with the highest cultivation was a white-browed old monk. He was already close to the Xiantian 10th stage. He brandished a dazzling golden Buddhist staff, and struck down towards Li Qingshan's head along with an evil wind. Slay the demons and protect the temple. All the monks rushed into the main hall. Their expressions were almost fanatical, and they rushed towards Li Qingshan with all their might. Li Qingshan raised his head and looked at the Buddha. He chuckled and turned the remaining power of vow into an invisible will. It swept through the Grand Buddha's hall and affected the entire Pudu temple. All the monks were stunned. In their eyes, Li Qingshan suddenly became dazzling, as if a Buddha had descended. He was awe-inspiring and inviolable, and they could not help but stop in their tracks. Abbot Fuku's face was full of struggle, but his will quickly collapsed under the impact of the will. The white-browed old monk's eyes were blank. The golden Buddhist staff stopped above his head and could not fall anymore. Hu Xian'er and Yang Miaozhen also looked at Li Qingshan in a daze. Tai Xiong's heart was filled with endless admiration. Zhang Xianfeng had never liked Li Qingshan's monkey-like appearance, not to mention that he had become even more monkey-like now. At this moment, she felt that he was more handsome and stalwart than any man she had ever seen in her life. An unprecedented feeling sprouted in her heart, and it quickly grew stronger. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, but it made the entire Pudu temple quiet. The cicadas' cries also quieted down. Only Luo Ho Xiaoming was unmoved, and he looked at everything around him with a playful expression. This was like a tyrant forcing himself on a bow. This move swept through all directions, and the effect was similar to a charm. However, Li Qingshan had never learned the art of charm, so he did not know what seduction and control was. It was all about crushing people with brute force. It was almost like directly raping people's minds, making men worship and women fall in love. In fact, Li Qingshan had an idea. He originally wanted to turn the remaining power of vow into spirit stones, and then slowly absorb it for cultivation. However, this power of vow did not belong to him, so he could only turn it into nothing. When the dust settled, Abbot Fuku walked forward and prostrated himself, as if he was facing a statue of Buddha. This poor monk greets the king. All the monks knelt on the ground. Greetings, king. Didn't you see me as a devil? Li Qingshan asked. He was also curious about the effect of this move. This poor monk is slow-witted. Please punish me, king. Ah, I've finally cured your stubborn disease. From now on, you are the hall master of Pudu Temple. Li Qingshan laughed. It was a pity that the people from Martial Union did not come, or he would have calmed the martial world. King, with your merciful heart, you used a thunderous method to punish evil and make all living beings equal. This poor monk is willing to follow you and work like a dog. Good, all of you get up. Li Qingshan waved his hand, and all the monks stood up. However, there was a trace of confusion in the depths of their eyes. It was not easy to forcibly change the will of others. If one had great perseverance, he or she would be able to wash away the brand sooner or later and restore his or her original appearance. However, such people were in the minority. However, the brand could also become deeper and deeper. It could be imagined that most of the people here would have unparalleled respect and loyalty to him for the rest of their lives. However, it was quite boring when he thought about it. He never liked to play the role of a god. He looked deeply at Hu Xian'er and Yang Miaozhen. I hope you can break free soon. Then he glanced at Zhang Xianfeng. As for this traitor, he would deal with him tonight. Hall Master Fuku, the World Society advocates freedom of belief. The disciples of the temple can continue to stay here to cultivate. You can take a few senior monks and report to the northern region. Let's see what arrangements President Gu has. Yes, thank you for your magnanimity. Fuku heaved a sigh of relief. After all, it was his life's faith. If Li Qingshan insisted, it would immediately trigger the most intense conflict in his heart. It was not impossible to break this brand. Li Qingshan really wanted to give it a try, but in the end, he decided not to do such a boring thing. Okay, take me to see the legendary Fiend Star. King, please follow me. The Fiend Star is suppressed in the bitter lake behind the main hall. Chapter 12:21. A surge of spiritual energy filled with murderous intent almost dyed the sky blood red. It had an aura that Li Qingshan was very familiar with, reminding him of an old enemy, Strong Stone. This stone was indeed the Stone of Slaughter from the Azura Path. Luo Ho Xiaoming's expression changed. What's wrong? Let's go and see. Li Qingshan was curious and let Abbot Fu Ku lead the way. The group passed through the Hall of Great Strength and arrived at the backyard of the Pudu Temple. There was a small lake hidden in the dense bamboo forest, sparkling under the light of the setting sun. There was a stone tablet beside the lake with the words, Bitter Lake, engraved on it. Li Qingshan felt that the spiritual energy here was very rich, as if he had returned to the 9 provinces. He understood that the killing intent of the Stone of Slaughter had been suppressed by an array formation, allowing only the spiritual energy within to be released, transforming this small lake into a land of spiritual energy. Reporting to Your Highness, the demon star is at the bottom of the lake. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a splash. Li Qingshan jumped into the lake and swam toward the bottom with his arms open. The lake was more than 10 feet deep, and there was a deathly stillness in the water. There was almost no trace of fish or shrimp. As the murderous intent grew stronger, Li Qingshan knew that he was close to his target. In the darkness, a dot of red light gradually grew larger. A giant cone-shaped stone was quietly inserted into the bottom of the lake, glowing with a dark red light. Found it? Li Qingshan's eyes lit up. He kicked back and shot straight toward the giant stone. At this time, there was a roar in front of him, and a surging undercurrent attacked him. Hu Xian'er and the others looked into the distance with concern. Suddenly, the lake water seemed to be boiling, and the faint roar of beasts could be heard. Your Highness! Hu Xian'er looked back angrily at Fu Ku. Bald donkey, is this another trap of yours? Fu Ku's face was also filled with fear. I really don't know. With a bang, the water surface exploded, and a giant black shadow shot into the sky, landing heavily on the edge of the lake, crushing a bamboo forest. Zhang Shenfeng arrived on the wind, but found that it was a giant turtle with a cracked shell, on the verge of death. There's actually such a monster in the lake. Fu Ku exclaimed. The Bitter Lake was originally the release pond in the temple. As it sank into the Stone of Slaughter, the fishes and shrimps in it began to kill and devour each other. Even though the monks were merciful, this was for the peace of the world and the development of Pudu Temple. He had no choice but to sacrifice them. However, he did not expect that there would be a survivor who had been hiding at the bottom of the lake and had cultivated into a monster by absorbing the spiritual energy in the Stone of Slaughter. It became the guardian beast of the Stone of Slaughter. The lake calmed down. The surging murderous aura became more and more intense. A dark red reef rose from the surface of the lake and quickly grew larger as it approached the lakeside. That is the Stone of Slaughter, Monk Fu Ku said. Even after all these years of suppression and dilution, it still caused everyone's blood to boil, and a faint desire to kill rose within them. Fortunately, they were all innate masters, so they had a certain level of resistance. Only Hu Ling'er moaned, Sister, I feel terrible. Ling, go further away. Don't come close. Voila! Water flowed down from the giant rock. Li Qingshan carried the Stone of Slaughter on his body and walked up step by step from the bottom of the lake. Your Highness! Li Qingshan came to the shore and slowly put down the Stone of Slaughter on his body. It still made a muffled sound, showing its weight. It is indeed a good spirit stone. It's a pity that too much spiritual energy has dissipated. This Stone of Slaughter was so strong that even steel that had been tempered 100 times couldn't compare. It seemed to have been tempered in some way, but it didn't seem like a magic treasure. Besides, there were countless Shura divine weapons in the Azura realm. Who would use a big stone as a weapon? He shook his head and didn't think about it. With this Stone of Slaughter, his ape demon transformation would definitely improve. However, he hadn't had time to digest the spiritual energy he had just swallowed, so he wasn't in a hurry. It's mine. A young and tender voice spoke up, causing everyone to be startled. Luo Ho and Little Ming walked up and patted the huge Stone of Slaughter. What did you say? I said it's mine. Luo Ho Xiaoming showed a look of nostalgia. You want to take advantage of me? I obviously carried it out from the bottom of the lake. If you don't believe me, Turn the stone over and see. Li Qingshan pushed the stone of slaughter to the side doubtfully. Sure enough, he found a dark sun and moon totem underneath. It was the totem of the Rahu clan. He suddenly remembered that Luo Ho Xiaoming had shot a stone from a slingshot and instantly killed Du Mohan. If that was the case, everything could be explained. A normal stone naturally wouldn't come from the Azura realm by itself. It also wouldn't have such a strong killing intent. It also wouldn't have been able to turn into a monster like strong stone with a powerful force. After pondering for a moment, he waved his hand to dismiss everyone. Only the two of them were left by the lake. Li Qingshan asked, "What exactly is going on?" "What do you mean, what is going on?" "I was just shooting it for fun." Luo Ho Xiaoming carelessly touched the slingshot on his waist named Xiaoya and said, "The 6 paths of reincarnation are connected to the other worlds. It's easy to hit it." Li Qingshan was speechless. Even without the barrier of the void, this was a cross-realm attack. Just how fierce was this Azura divine child in the past? The legend of the demon star descends and the world plunges into chaos was just a child's game of shooting sparrows. And that monster General Strong Stone who massacred dozens of cities and killed countless people. That stone of slaughter in the 9 provinces, was it also you who shot it? Other than me, who else would be so bored? Luo Ho Xiaoming tilted his head and squinted his eyes as if he was sleepy again. So you also know that you are bored? Li Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. Wait, I've only stayed in 2 worlds and you shot the stone both times. This can't be a coincidence, right? The 3,000 worlds was the collective name of the Great Thousand Worlds, the Medium Thousand Worlds, and the Small Thousand Worlds. As for the specific number, perhaps only the gods and Buddhas in the 9 heavens knew. Unexpectedly, 2 worlds had stone of slaughter. Either it was really a coincidence that he encountered an extremely small probability event, or he had shot a large number of stone of slaughter. Obviously, the latter was much more likely. And without using the spirit tortoise to deduce, one could guess how large the number was. Even if half of the 3,000 worlds had stone of slaughter, the probability of encountering it twice in a row was only 1 in 4. Suddenly he felt that Luo Ho Xiaoming's words were not entirely true. No matter how bored a child was, he would only shoot sparrows and not every leaf on the tree. Moreover, such a workload was almost equivalent to shooting every leaf in the forest. Even for the gods, it was not an easy task. The amount of time and energy spent was inestimable. Was it just for fun? Luo Ho Xiaoming spread his hands. Now you know how bored I am. But why is it so big? Falling into this kind of small world, it will naturally appear big. Chapter 12:22. Seeing this, Li Qingshan stopped talking. He suddenly had a feeling that he was being watched. He couldn't help but look around, only to see the setting sun and the bamboo forest. At this time in Pudu Temple, no one would disobey his orders. With a thought, he walked over to the motionless giant turtle thrown on the shore and kicked its shell. "Come out!" The giant turtle didn't move. Li Qingshan yelled, "If you don't come out, I'll break your shell and make soup out of you." A giant turtle head stretched out of the shell, its horns protruding like a dragon's head. A pair of dark green eyes was carefully watching Li Qingshan. "You can understand what we're saying?" The giant turtle hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "So, you heard what we said just now? Looks like I'll have to kill the turtle to silence it. How do you taste?" Li Qingshan licked his lips. The giant turtle was so scared that it quickly shrank its head back. "Just kidding. You look like you have the blood of a spirit beast. No wonder you have such intelligence. It's rare in a world like this. Forget it, I'll spare your life. Follow me and run errands." Li Qingshan returned to the stone of slaughter and sat cross-legged with his back against it. He refined the spiritual energy in his body while absorbing the spiritual energy in the stone. 3 days later, the sun was high in the sky. The morning bells and evening drums rang in Pudu Temple, and all the monks came out to form a formation. They were no longer nervously facing the enemy, but reluctantly sending him off. An exquisite hut slowly passed through the crowd. Li Qingshan sat in front of the hut, waving to the monks. "Thank you for your hard work. His cultivation had increased to the next level. His appearance had become more and more like an ape. His body was covered in thick dark gold hair, and he squatted there without a care for his image. With a tail wagging, he looked even more like an ape than the White Ape King had been. Now, even without the divine talisman of great creation and the last frenzy blade, he could fight the White Ape King. There was nothing in the world that could threaten him anymore. We are willing to serve the great king. The monks looked determined and fanatical, not caring about Li Qingshan's appearance at all. Li Qingshan patted the base of the house. Old ninja, hurry up. Big Turtle immediately quickened its pace and moved forward. It turned out that this small house was built on the back of this giant tortoise, and Li Qingshan once again displayed his profound naming skills. He named the turtle Old Ninja because he was able to stay in the backyard of Pudu Temple for so long without being discovered. It could be said that he was very patient. However, he was probably the only one who knew if he was affected by the memories of his past life. Perhaps it was because of the conversation between Li Qingshan and Luo Ho Xiaoming. Big Turtle Ninja was very obedient and willing to work without complaint. His steps were steady and powerful as he squeezed through the temple gate and climbed down the mountain. Watching Li Qingshan's figure disappear on the mountain path, Fu Ku felt a sense of loss in his heart. It was as if he had done something wrong, but he didn't know what it was. Tai Xiong said, "Master, we should also set off." Therefore, Monk Fu Ku ordered the monks, announced to the world that Pudu Temple will be changed to Pudu Hall, and then immediately set off for Galloping Horse City in the north. Report to Guild Leader Gu. Big Turtle climbed down the mountain and crossed the mountain gate. It began to gallop at full speed, carrying so many things on its back. It was even faster than a galloping horse, and still very stable. As expected of a spiritual beast. Without your help, it would be really troublesome to carry so many things. The big turtle growled in response. Li Qingshan returned to the Lion Palace. Not only were there the most beautiful women in the world, but there was also the wealth that Pudu Temple had accumulated over the years. Hu Xian'er was in high spirits as she checked. Your Highness, those monks are really good at plundering. Monks also need to eat. Do you know where your heartless father is? Although Li Qingshan didn't hate his current appearance, and even found it very interesting, he wouldn't let go of the opportunity to return to his human form. Hu Xian'er's expression changed slightly, and Hu Ling also raised her head. What, do you regret it? No, I've waited for this day for too long. As you wish. On the evening of the second day, Big Turtle came to a beautiful mountain, in front of a magnificent mansion. It wasn't filled with murderous intent as he imagined, but a peaceful atmosphere. Before Li Qingshan could call the door opened a gap. Is that the king outside? Yes. The gap widened a little, and a handsome boy came out of the door, carefully handing over a letter. My master went out to travel, and said that if you come, everything here will be given to you. This is the letter he left for you. Li Qingshan opened the letter, and a few lines of elegant handwriting appeared. He glanced at Hu Xian'er and read out loud, Your Highness, it's my honor to have you here, and I've long heard of your heroic name. I wish I could drink and get drunk with you. However, I've been thinking about the past, and I can't sleep. I'm filled with regret, and I only wish to wander the world and live incognito. Beautiful maids, catamites, fresh clothes, and horses are all here as dowry, and I hope that you treat my 2 daughters well, Dongfang Yu. He asked Hu Xian'er, what do you think? Hu Xian'er looked like she was struggling, unable to make up her mind. Yang Miaozhen said, as expected of young Master Meiyu. This short letter not only flatters His Royal Highness and expresses his unwillingness to be enemies, but also expresses his remorse and apology. Drifting in Jianghu and hiding his identity is considered atonement for his sins. In the end, he even gave up all the things that could be coveted by others. He really has an exquisite heart. No wonder the phantom dancer Enchantress fell in love with him. Li Qingshan said in disdain, Pfft, what exquisite heart. It's all about looks. If he looks like me, even if he has 9 or 10 apertures, it'll be useless. Your Highness, you do know your limits. Yang Miaozhen smiled, but her eyes were filled with affection. I'm a man of strength. Let's go in and take a look. If there's no transformed grass, We'll have to look for him. And the transformed grass was indeed inside. That young Master Mayu didn't leave any traces of trouble for her. Hu Xian-er looked at it in a daze, as if she was unwilling, but also unable to bear it. Think about it. Since I've promised you, even if he escapes to the ends of the earth, it'll be useless. Li Qingshan was used to seeing the spiritual flowers and plants of the 9 prefectures. He didn't think that there was anything special about it. He stuffed it into his mouth, chewed on it, and walked into the house. Half a day later, he walked out of the house. The girls waiting outside were stunned, and their eyes shone. Li Qingshan returned to his North Moon form, but his other demonic transformations were suppressed, so there were still many changes. His scarlet hair had turned dark gold, and his round eyes were the same color. His arms became slightly longer, but they did not seem excessive. In an instant, he turned from a wild monkey into a handsome man. Hee, now I'm a man of strength and an idol. Li Qingshan smiled, and his monkey tail swayed behind him. That was a souvenir he kept behind him. He then asked Hu Xian-er, have you thought about it? Hu Xian-er's expression dimmed, and she remained silent. Then forget it. Wait here. Li Qingshan left. A few days later, he came back just now, and threw a human head in front of Hu Xian. It was the head of a man. Even though the face was hideous, one could still see how handsome he was when he was alive. Hu Xian-er took a step back, and her face was filled with both joy and sadness. Your Highness. Chapter 1223. The luxurious garden actually contained even more treasures, antiques, and paintings than the Pudu Temple. Unfortunately, it was still unable to save its owner's life. Li Qingshan placed everything on the turtle's back. The 4 legs of the turtle trembled, unable to support it any longer. It just lay on the ground and looked at Li Qingshan pleadingly. Li Qingshan kicked him. You bastard, get up. You can't even carry so little. How useless. Yang Miaozhen could not bear to see him like this. She tried to persuade him, Your Highness, there are carriages and horses here. Don't force him. What do you know? I'm helping him cultivate. I don't know what kind of spiritual beast he is, but there's a sense of burden in his bloodline. These burdens are the best cultivation. Li Qingshan turned to the turtle and said, If you don't want to get up, then just lie here and wait for your death. I don't want the things on the back either. The turtle let out a growl and slowly stood up again. It walked forward step by step, but it was extremely difficult. Li Qingshan leapt onto the turtle's back again, and the turtle stopped again. It could not take it anymore, but Li Qingshan's words suddenly rang out in its head. Li Qingshan passed on some of the methods to circulate qi from the spirit turtle's method of qi suppression to it. The demon qi all over the turtle condensed, and its footsteps immediately became more stable. It nodded at Li Qingshan in gratitude. A group of carriages followed behind the turtle, forming a long procession. Hu Xian-er stood where she was without moving at all. She held a head in her hands. Hu Ling-er accompanied her silently from the side. Zhang Xianfeng whispered, Your Highness, aren't we going to wait for her? Leaving this vixen behind was obviously for the best. Time waits for no one. Don't worry, she'll catch up. Don't look at me like that. I was originally a heartless person. I wonder who's bold enough to take this great head. Li Qingshan's laughter was clear, spreading out in all directions. So what if I betray the entire world? What's there to be ashamed and regretful about? As a man, he had to carry the burden and advance. When Yang Miaozhen and Zhang Xianfeng heard that, they felt their minds clear up. They felt indescribably relaxed and happy. Hu Xian-er shuddered. She let go of the head and kicked it away. With a plop, it landed in the stream and drifted away. She grabbed Hu Ling-er and followed the procession. She leapt onto the turtle's back and threw herself into Li Qingshan's arms. They traveled north until they reached Galloping City. Everyone in the city knew that the hero king had returned, so they welcomed him. Before he even arrived, his deeds had already spread throughout the world, and the northern territory was also at peace. Arriving at the world meeting, Gu Yenying stood in the courtyard with a smile in her white clothes and a folding fan in her hand. Congratulations, congratulations. Your cultivation has recovered a little again. Looks like you've benefited quite a lot. These 3 must be the legendary 10 great beauties of the world. Hu Xian'er couldn't say it out loud. She thought that she was already the most beautiful woman in the world. Even Yang Miaozhen and Zhang Xianfeng, the 2 top 10 beauties, seemed a little feminine when compared to her. However, when she saw the legendary leader of the world society, she suddenly felt a sense of shame. It was the difference between a wild fox and a divine eagle. So she really is the most beautiful woman in the world. He must like her very much. Where's your mask? Li Qingshan asked. I don't need it anymore. Gu Yenying said. With the establishment of the Azura army, she controlled the power and did not need to worry about small problems caused by her appearance. Li Qingshan ordered people to unload the things on the turtle's back. Gu Yenying's eyes brightened. Okay, I'm in need of money. The construction of the Northern Territory required investment everywhere. Why did you suddenly become a money grubber? This is not the breadth of mind a rock should have. Li Qingshan smiled. He had been short of money for more than 10 years, but she probably didn't know what money was from the day she was born. It was funny that she was so concerned about money now. It was like a princess suddenly starting to work in the fields. You don't know the cost of rice and firewood if you don't manage the household. You're happy being a shopkeeper, but you don't know that there are many things in this world. It's like a hero is stumped by a penny. Forget it, you won't understand even if I tell you. Gu Yenying waved her hand. She was using her own way to sharpen her mind. The heart of a rock was very high, but if she forced herself to imitate it, she would only make herself look high. She would be like a dog instead of a tiger. It was better to calm down and do things in a down-to-earth way. And from the feedback she got from the rock feather, her choice was also correct. Before the rock turned into a rock, it also floated and sank in the siege. After a while, all the leaders of the world society were summoned to the meeting hall. Xue Hanfeng, Fu Ku, Tai Xiong, and the others were there. Together with the original members of the deity Sword Villa and the warriors who came from all over the world to join them, it could be said that there were many masters and heroes. Even if it was evaluated in the traditional way, the world society was already the biggest society in the world. It was far better than any sect or family and could unify the martial arts world. The change in Li Qingshan surprised everyone, but they quickly accepted it. After all, they were not standing here because of his appearance. They cupped their hands and bowed. Greetings, Your Highness. Only Xue Bing's eyes were a bit more resentful. When Li Qingshan looked back, she lowered her head again and hurriedly reflected on herself. We have known each other for less than a month and spent less than a day together. At most, it can be considered as a chance meeting. Why is it like this? But he said that he wanted to gather the top 10 beauties in the world. It turns out that he was serious. Then I'm also one of them. What a hateful man. But he looks really good now. Lei Lai stepped forward and said, Your Highness has defeated martial union in the Middle Region and subdued the Snow Mountain sect and Pudu Temple. Now, no family or sect dares to oppose our world society. Why don't we send troops south and unify the world? Gu Yenying asked, What do you think? Among the people with the highest cultivation and status in the hall, the left and right protectors were obsessed with swordsmanship. They did not care about this matter. Xue Hanfeng was originally worried that the disciples of the Snow Mountain sect would be sacrificed in the War of the World Society. But now, it seemed that Li Qingshan could single-handedly defeat the remaining 3 families and 5 sections. There was no need to worry at all, so he said nothing. Amitba. I don't think so. Now that the northern region has not been stabilized, rashly conquering the south will only cause chaos and countless deaths. It is not in line with Your Highness's chivalrous way. Bald donkey, I think your body is in the world society, but your heart is in martial union. As the saying goes, a long night is fraught with dreams. If we give martial union a chance to breathe, who knows what kind of trouble they will cause. Lei Lai said coldly. The death of the 7 slaughtering demon lord was definitely related to the Pudu temple. Otherwise, the fiend's star would not have sunk into the bitter lake. Shut up. Li Qingshan slammed the table and scolded, Brat, you sure know how to talk now. This is the place to talk. If you want to take revenge, find another place to duel with Hall Master Fuku. Don't think he can do anything to you just because he can't do anything to you. A duel is a duel. Why would I be afraid of him? Lei Lai's face turned red. Duels are not allowed in the world society. Hall Master Lei, you insulted Hall Master Fuku. Later, you will receive 50 strokes of the cane, Gu Yenying said. Yes, Guild Master. Lei Lai lowered his head and accepted the order. His anger disappeared without a trace. Even a blind man could see his abnormality. Even though he knew it was hopeless, he could not go against her order. Shui Hanfeng had also noticed his daughter's abnormality. He could not help but sigh. This man and woman were both peerless. Who could escape their charm and resist their power? Hall Master Fuku's words are reasonable. Even if we can unify the world with force, we can't avoid massacres. Many people will be disappointed in the world society and even doubt the chivalrous king's chivalrous way. Only by doing something in the northern region can we break the rumor that the fiend star has descended and the world will be in chaos. I hereby swear that if the people of the world are not willing to submit, the world society will not take them by force. Guild Master is wise. I admire you. To be honest, I used to believe such rumors until I saw the king's chivalry and the Guild Master's magnanimity. Just now, I realize my own shallowness. I am willing to serve you and return peace to this world, so that all lives are equal and good and evil will be repaid. Monk Fuku's expression was sacred. Li Qingshan also felt a little strange. His chivalrous way was both righteous and selfish, but he was not as serious as this monk. He did not know if it was because of the influence of the spiritual imprint, but it was clear that Gu Yenying's decision had increased his loyalty. Li Qingshan also agreed with Gu Yenying's words. Being domineering had always been the fastest way, but it was also the most unstable. In this world, this instability would be magnified to the extreme. Unifying the world was easy, but what would happen after unifying it? It could be imagined that under the influence of the will of the heavens, there would be many rebellious forces everywhere. If they used force to suppress it, it would only cause more hatred and hostility. In the end, it would become a tyranny. As the saying goes, those who are tainted by the country are the rulers of the country. Those who are tainted by the country are the kings of the world. In his previous life, a certain country was already a heaven-like existence in the eyes of other people, and its citizens were full of complaints. Now, to them, this world was a huge bait. If they forcefully swallowed it, they would definitely be hooked by the throat. Since that was the case, it was better to leave martial union. It was better to leave the enemy outside than at home. In the end, even if they really raised a tiger, even if the enemy stepped on dog shit every step, they could still be dealt with a sword. The two of them had the same opinion, so the others naturally could not object. When the crowd dispersed, Li Qingshan grabbed Shui Bing's hand. As expected, you have cultivated the cultivation technique I gave you. It seems that you have obediently agreed. What do you think of me now? Your Highness, please conduct yourself with dignity. Shui Bing's face was bright red, and she looked at Shui Hanfeng for help. Shui Hanfeng smiled bitterly. My daughter, oh my daughter. If you're determined to fight back, I'll draw my sword right now and fight you. No matter how powerful Li Qingshan is, we'll just die together at worst, but what am I supposed to do with you like this? However, he could not just stand there and watch. He also said, Your Highness, please conduct yourself with dignity. He then took a step and left. My daughter, for the sake of the Snow Mountain sect, please suffer some grievances. Father. Shui Bing wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Li Qingshan laughed. Are you trying to go back on your words? Chapter 12:24. At the Peach Blossom Fairy, the west wind was strong. The peach blossoms had long fallen, leaving only a patch of dead wood. A middle-aged man stood in the wind and looked towards the north. His eyes flashed with deep-rooted hatred. He was actually still very young, but the worry wrinkles on his face and the white hair on his temples made him look very bleak. He could never forget what happened 15 years ago. That was the happiest moment of his life, but also the saddest moment. On the day of his wedding, The one he loved was taken away. Li Qingshan. He could not help but whisper the name. Hatred made him tremble. Perhaps there was also a deep fear. This was not cowardice. That devil. Fiend Star. It could make any brave and fearless person in the world feel fear, and it could also stop the crying of an ignorant child. Thinking of this, he touched a broken bone in his bosom. It was originally one of his ribs, and now it was engraved with runes. He rubbed the bone with his fingers. He clearly remembered every rune on it, because he had sacrificed 7 ribs to refine it. In the end, he could only use it once. This killing bone was a secret of the tribe. It required the refiner to personally cut open his own flesh and carve incantations on the bone. Then it would be nourished in the body for 7 years. After it was taken out, it would require another 7 years of worship before it could be considered complete. By condensing a venomous aura into it, one could kill without a trace. One could curse the enemy to death with just a finger. Even if the enemy had peerless martial arts, they would not be able to escape. However, very few people refine this killing bone. Unless there was a deep hatred, who could be so heartless to wait for 14 years? If one focused on martial arts, he might be able to take revenge in 10 years. However, his current opponent was that devil. He could not be defeated with any martial arts. Only by using this killing bone would he have a glimmer of hope. That beautiful face appeared in his mind again. Hatred overwhelmed his fear. He silently said, 15 years, it has been a whole 15 years. I, Wu Huan, will definitely take revenge for stealing my wife. Hey, the one over there, are you coming or not? A boatman in a straw raincoat stood at the bow. He roared at Wu Huan. Go go. Wu Huan was shocked. This roar contained innate qi and was as loud as thunder. The other party was a Xian Tian master. Could it be that he had run into an eccentric person who lived in seclusion? Suppressing all his hatred and fear, he stepped forward and cupped his hands in greeting. Innate? The boatman stroked his beard and sized up Wu Huan. What are you going up north for? If I want to join the World Assembly, how much does it cost to cross the river? Come on up, it's free. Wu Huan boarded the ferry and asked, Brother is also a member of the Tianxia Society? That goes without saying. The boatman said proudly, and the pole touched the riverbank. The ferry flew towards the center of the river. At this time, the autumn flood had just passed and the river was flowing rapidly. When a bamboo pole fell into the river, it was like a pillar in the middle of the river, showing its extraordinary martial arts. Brother, with your martial arts, why are you working as a boatman here? Of course it's to earn money to support the family. Earn money to support the family? Wu Huan found it unbelievable. How could a Khanate expert lack money? His Highness and the guild master said that it's shameful to reap without sowing. Don't think that just because you know a bit of martial arts, you are so great that you can be supported by others. We, the members of the Tianxia Society, have to come from the masses and use our martial arts to serve the masses. A few cheers sounded in the cabin. As expected of the Tianxia Society, as expected of the chivalrous king. Everyone is too polite. My father used to row a boat, but he can row a dozen times a day at most. I can row 100 times casually, and it counts as training. Wu Huan lowered his eyes. This devil really knows how to buy people's hearts. You stupid boorish man deserves to be ordered to do this kind of lowly work. The boatman looked at Wu Huan again. Of course, if there are any people with bad intentions who want to infiltrate the northern region, they will have to go through me first. Looking at you, brother, you must be from the southern region. I heard that the reactionary forces there are especially stubborn. Wu Huan's heart skipped a beat. I'm definitely not from any reactionary force, but because I admire His Highness's chivalrous reputation, I rushed here to serve him. That's good. But even if you are, I am not afraid. His Highness said that all reactionaries are paper tigers. If it wasn't for the benevolence of the guild master, who doesn't want to kill recklessly, he would have long flattened those dog-shit aristocratic families and sects. Yes. Wu Huan nodded his head repeatedly. Once he reached the opposite shore, he jumped off the boat and hurriedly headed north. He could no longer listen to the flattery of the lowly people on the boat towards the devil. The boatman stood at the bow of the boat and looked coldly at his back. A peddler whispered, "Boss Zhao, there's something wrong with that guy. Whenever we talk about His Highness, his expression becomes unnatural. He's most likely a spy from the south. I've seen many of such people. I'll report it later. Let's see how big of a wave he can stir up." Wu Huan hurried all the way. Thinking that he was in enemy territory, he somewhat regretted losing his composure just now. But he quickly calmed himself down. He had never thought that he could return alive. So he increased his vigilance. He only needed to see that devil once, and that would be enough. Although it was his first time in the northern region, he did not need to worry about getting lost. A large road led directly to the foot of Beijing, which was the galloping horse city of the past. The weather was already cold, and the first snow was about to come. But the road was still bustling with activity. There were villages on the side of the road, and there were even a few small cities connected. It was actually more prosperous than the middle region that he had been to, and the number of experts here was far more than any other place. But most of these experts were not dressed in fresh clothes, riding on horses, or holding sabers or swords. Some were holding sickles and rushing to harvest. With a flash of cold light, the wheat would fall in patches. Some were holding iron hammers, and with a loud bang, a huge rock was smashed into pieces, and then they used the stones to pave the road. The sickles and iron hammers were not only made of fine iron, but they even had spirituality. They were not inferior to those legendary famous swords and sabers. A group of people rushed forward to tie up the wheat. The young man put down the sickle and said to the old man squatting on the edge of the field, "All right, uncle, it's all done. Let's go back to the village to drink after. Drinking is drinking, but we can't be short of money. You're a big man. It's really good to practice martial arts. You've harvested faster than all of us in the village combined." Of course, I'm known as the wheat harvesting expert in the martial arts world. The wind sickle in my hand was personally given to me by guild leader Gu when I was a model worker. All the wheat within 100 miles was harvested by me. Alas, you're really promising. Your father didn't send you to the youth hall to learn martial arts in vain. It has nothing to do with that old drunkard. I was clearly chosen by Hall Master Lei himself, and Hall Master Lei also used a saber in those days. That's the grace of the great hero prince. That's more like it. You little bastard, if I don't get you drunk today, I'm not your uncle. The strong man put the iron hammer on his shoulder and wiped his sweat. He waved his hand. "All right, let's call it a day. I'll continue tomorrow." Looking at the progress today, he felt a burst of joy in his heart. When this road was repaired, the town would be able to pass through big carts. He did not start practicing martial arts after coming to the World Assembly. His family had a set of hammer skills, which was considered a little famous in the northern region. But since he was famous, it was inevitable that people would come to challenge him, wanting to use him to become famous. So he practiced martial arts hard every day, so as not to bring down the prestige of his family. But these years, the World Assembly had decreed that not only were private fights prohibited, but challenging people to a duel was also a serious crime. The great hero prince said, "Everyone is destined to die. It may be as heavy as the mountains and rivers, or as light as a feather. Dying for the benefit of the people and fighting against evil forces is as heavy as the mountains and rivers. Dying for fame and profit, fighting bravely and ruthlessly, is as light as a feather. Even worse than a pig. Killing a pig can still eat meat. When a person dies, they have to pay with a coffin." So he was finally free from the practice field, and did not have to stay at home waiting for people to challenge him. Compared to smashing people's brains with an iron hammer, he preferred to smash stones to repair the road. Wu Huan suddenly heard a strong wind behind him. Looking back, he could not help but be shocked. A few young men chased after him, wearing the same black clothes and embroidered cloud-walking boots. They looked like they were riding the wind, using the divine wind sect's top lightness skill. Oh no, I must have given myself away at the dock, and the World Assembly has sent people to kill me. Wu Huan felt that his martial arts were above these few young men, but their lightness skill made him afraid. Once he was entangled here, he would definitely attract more experts. So he circulated his vital energy and increased his speed. Looks like that old fellow in front wants to compete with us brothers. Let's compete. Who's afraid of who? The few young men looked at each other and increased their speed, chasing after him. Wu Huan was not good at lightness skill, and after running for another 100 miles, he was a little exhausted. But he was still able to shake off the few young men, and thought to himself, if I continue running like this, I will exhaust all my vital energy. Coming to a deserted place, he made up his mind and entered the forest beside the main road. Standing still, he regulated his breathing and prepared to fight, to completely cut off these few tails. Come on, Li Qingshan's hunting dogs. The few young men stopped on the main road, holding their knees and panting. This old fellow runs really fast. Brothers, are we still chasing? Chasing my ass. If we don't deliver the goods by tonight, do you want your wages to be deducted? You're here to deliver the goods? Wu Huan walked out of the forest, his eyes wide open. Only then did he understand why the merchants and travelers on the road were not surprised at all. Hey, brother's lightness skill is not bad. There aren't many people who can outrun us on this road, but one look and I can tell you're not a local. We're not here to deliver the goods, we're couriers, SF Express. Wu Huan was speechless. He had heard too many new words today. In the past, those who had such qing gong in the martial arts world were mostly one-legged thieves or perverted rapists. He had never heard of anyone who specialized in delivering goods to others. He watched as the few young men left under the setting sun. It was not that his lightness skill was not good, but his heart was too tired. Even if I'm a perverted thief, I can still roam the martial arts world and live freely. It's better than being an errand slave. Wu Huan walked slowly, and when the sun was setting he passed by a small village. Feeling thirsty, he quickened his pace. He was about to find a place to eat and drink when suddenly there were shouts from behind the mud wall. His relaxed nerves suddenly tightened. Chapter 12:25. A group of children with wooden swords chased each other through the streets. Wu Huan swallowed his saliva, wondering if he had been too cautious. But when he looked carefully, he let out a cry of surprise. It turned out that those children were not fooling around. Their swordsmanship was very methodical. Although each move and each style looked very immature, it was obviously a very high level of swordsmanship. Especially the dark-skinned boy running in front. He was neither big nor small among the group of children. It was unknown why he was being chased and beaten by the other children. He seemed to be used to this scene. His face was calm as he fought and retreated, waving his wooden sword. Every time he struck, a child would cry out and fall to the ground. Don't be in a hurry to attack, surround him. An older child shouted. The other children did not attack rashly. They took up a defensive position and advanced step by step. Finally, they surrounded the child under a mud wall. The older child laughed. Tai Dan, let's see where you can run this time. I'll beat you up today. You bastards, don't even think of touching a single hair on Tai Dan's head. Let's go together. Beat him up. A peasant woman at the entrance of the village shouted, Tai Dan, your mother wants you to go home for dinner. Got it. The boy shouted, total annihilation. He suddenly bent down and swept the ground. Instantly, smoke and dust flew everywhere and the yellow soil filled the air. While the other children were blinded by the yellow soil, he turned around and leaped 3 feet off the ground. He climbed up the mud wall and flipped over it. Standing on the wall, he raised his wooden sword and laughed, I am the hero king. Then he took off his pants. He took out his little penis and started to pee. The children all dodged. Throw swords at him. 7 or 8 wooden swords flew up. The boy held the wooden sword in one hand. With one hand holding onto his penis, he managed to dodge a few swords. However, his head was still hit. He cried out and fell down the mud wall. He also saw a glistening child's urine flying in the sunset, drenching him. Behind the wall, there was a loud cry. The other children laughed and rolled on the ground. They had vented their anger. The cries faded and the laughter died down. They all returned to their homes and went to their mothers. Wu Huan stood rooted to the ground for quite a while. The boy named Tai Dan had clearly cultivated inner force, and he even knew the Qinggong method of raising qi. Not only was he a martial arts prodigy, he was also a sword prodigy. What was even rarer was that he was proficient in actual combat and knew how to adapt to changing situations. If he were to join any sect, he would definitely be able to stand out quickly. Although the other children were not as talented, they were proficient in swordsmanship and knew when to advance and when to retreat. Especially the big boy who led the other children, he could be said to be an outstanding person. In the end, he relied on everyone's strength. He had defeated the proud genius. The child's harmless quarrel, in the eyes of a Jianghu veteran, was like a Jianghu fight. A pack of wolves fighting a tiger. But this wasn't some aristocratic family or sect, it was just an ordinary village in the northern region. If another 16 years passed, who knew how many more experts would emerge? At that time, how would martial union contend against them? That demon's ambition was simply too frightening. I'll definitely die on this trip. If I can pass on my legacy before I die, I'll definitely die. Planting a seed of resistance in the northern region has not been a waste of my martial arts. Thus, he circled behind the mud wall. Following a trail of footprints, he arrived in front of a farmer's courtyard. A trail of smoke rose into the night sky, and the fragrance of food wafted over. Even the crying of a child and the scolding of a woman could not break the silence. An emotion suddenly choked his chest, causing him to stop in his tracks. Who's sneaking around outside? I'm a traveler from afar, wishing to join the World Club. Can you sell me something to eat and ask for a sip of water? Wu Huan regained his senses and walked into the courtyard, only to see a woman pressing the child named Tai Dan onto a bench. She pulled down his pants and spanked his buttocks until they were bright red. However, the child's clothes had already been changed, and the swelling on his head had subsided. The woman was in her early 30s and had a handkerchief wrapped around her head. Surprisingly, she was very beautiful, and her figure was also very graceful, unlike the stout peasant women. It was obvious that she knew martial arts. Along the way, he had already gotten used to this sight. Almost everyone in the northern region at this age knew martial arts. However, it was not profound, and he had not reached the innate realm, which proved that the child's talent did not come from his family. An old man squatted by the side and smoked. He grinned and said, "Are you here to join the World Club? Come in and take a seat. Don't mention buying, it's just a matter of adding a pair of chopsticks." The old man did not know martial arts, which made him heave a sigh of relief. "Sister-in-law, I saw just now that this child is very powerful. He fought against many people alone. He's a martial arts genius. Alas, he only knows how to fight all day long. I'm sorry, sir." The woman patted the child's head, but she could not help but smile. The child immediately stopped crying when the woman stopped hitting him. He pulled up his pants and ran to the dining table. "Tai Dan, why did you fight with them?" Wu Huan touched the child's head. "They said my father is the opposition. Where's the child's father?" The woman's face darkened. "How did he die? Could it be that the World Club—" Wu Huan hurriedly stopped talking, afraid of giving himself away again. How do you know?" The woman looked at him strangely. "I came to join the World Club. I also want to know what the World Club does, so I asked around along the way. It has a good reputation, but I didn't expect such a thing to happen." "Then forget it. The child's father was originally a member of the World Club. Later on, he was sentenced to death for kidnapping a civilian girl." Wu Huan was speechless. He hated this kind of behavior the most in his life. He looked at the woman and said, "Could it be, yes, I'm that civilian girl. Hurry up and eat, the food is getting cold." The woman touched the child's head. "Tai Dan, if anyone scolds you in the future, just say that you don't have a father." Tai Dan took big mouthfuls of rice and answered vaguely. Wu Huan did not know what to feel, but he thought of that beautiful face again. "Li Qingshan, Li Qingshan, you hypocritical hypocrite. You can sentence others to death, but you can't sentence yourself. She must still be suffering now." But this was an opportunity. The hatred of killing one's father was irreconcilable, even more so than the hatred of stealing one's wife. This was God's will. The dishes were very plentiful, with fish and meat. The old man even took out a jar of wine. The wine was clear, not like the village wine. I heard that the northern region suffered from continuous disasters. I didn't expect the days to be so good. It's all thanks to the leader and the prince's grace. We built many reservoirs and canals, so floods and droughts can't affect us. We don't collect taxes, so our days are much better. The seeds are also different from the past. Now there's a lot of grain, and meat is very cheap. Otherwise, how could Tai Dan grow so strong? Sai, when I was young, I wouldn't even have enough to eat, let alone learn martial arts. Father, you're endless again. It's just one newspaper, but you can't forget these words. The old man said anxiously, that's a news bulletin. My portrait takes up an entire page. To be continued. Chapter 12:26. The woman laughed. Look at you. If no one teaches you, you won't even know what to say. Drink up. Wouldn't it be a lie if someone else taught me? Wu Huan could not help but say. The old man was furious. Lie. You're the one who's lying. These are my heartfelt words. I just don't know how to open my mouth. I misspoke. Wu Huan apologized. The old man felt embarrassed and touched his head. I'm the same. If it were in the past, I wouldn't even dare to look you in the eye. Why? You're an expert. Killing a commoner like me is a piece of cake. Now that the king of chivalry is standing up for us, you have to pay with your life even if you're a Khanate expert. Father, he's a Khanate expert. Forgive me for my poor eyesight. Let me toast to you. Tai Dan also looked up from his bowl and stared at him. It was only then that Wu Huan suddenly realized why he felt that the atmosphere in the northern region was so different. Usually, when he traveled in Jianghu, not to mention the commoners who did not dare to provoke the martial artists, even the acquired realm warriors would stay far away when they saw the innate realm masters. It was unlike the few young men he met today who dared to catch up to him and compete with his lightness skill. If it was another place, he might have been killed. Now, an old man from the countryside dared to scold him, a Khanate expert. How strange was that? Without the vigilance between people, even though there were many martial artists in the north, there was no sense of danger in the pugilistic world. If not for his deep hatred, he might have to admire the king of chivalry. But there were all kinds of feelings in his heart. This unforgettable hatred would never change in the slightest. Li Qingshan, it's either you die or I die. That's good. I'll punish myself with a cup first. Wu Huan raised his head and downed the wine in one gulp. The dishes were delicious, and the wine was also top-notch. It was said that the omnipotent guild leader Gu had changed the method of brewing wine. Wu Huan was slightly tipsy after drinking a few cups. He had the intention of taking the child as his disciple. Sister-in-law takes care of the whole family alone. It must be hard. The king of chivalry said that women can hold up half the sky. Women can also become peerless experts. My martial arts are good and few men in the village can compare to me. Who dares to gossip about me? I'm going to slap him. Tai Dan isn't a coward either. In the future, when he enters the youth hall and comes back with peerless martial arts, let's see who doesn't envy me. Youth hall? After asking around, Wu Huan found out that it was a Hall of the World Club, with the son of the seven-slaughtering demon lord, Lei Lai, as the hall master. It specially recruited talented children from all over the world. Learning martial arts in the youth hall did not cost a single copper coin. If they could pass the final exam, they would be able to join the World Club directly, which was the dream of all the children in the northern region. The woman stroked the child's head. Everyone in the village who knows martial arts said that. Tai Dan is a talented child. He will definitely be chosen to enter the youth hall. Mother, I can definitely do it. Wu Huan was speechless. If it was in the past, a Xiantian expert taking the initiative to take in a disciple was something that commoners could only dream of. Many legends began here. But in this case, a person of unknown origin like him was obviously not as attractive as the youth hall of the World Club. Unknowingly, it was late at night. The hostess invited him to sleep in the same bed as the old man. He was unwilling to accept it, so he took the opportunity to agree. In the middle of the night, a black shadow came to the child's bed. The white moonlight shone on his face, making him look ferocious. He muttered in a low voice, "It was the people of the World Club who raped your mother and killed your father. You're a bastard, and it's all Li Qingshan's fault." The child was sleeping soundly, completely unaware of it. Wu Huan stretched out his hand to pat him awake, and then awaken the hatred in his heart. But it affected the emptiness under his ribs, and he felt lost again. No one knew better than him how painful the taste of hatred was. What did all this have to do with this child? And that woman, hadn't she suffered enough? She had already suffered so much, and this child was all she had. If I had married her and had a child back then, he would be this old now. He would definitely have such talent, and I would teach him martial arts. In an instant, an infatuated smile appeared on his face, and then he suddenly sobered up. No, I want revenge. After a while, he stumbled out of the door, crossed the wall, and rushed away. Sir? The woman heard the movement, put on her clothes, and rushed to the child's bed. She shook him hard. Tai Dan, wake up. The child rubbed his eyes. Mother, what's wrong? The woman heaved a sigh of relief, and found a bag of silver on the bedside. She thought, what a strange man, but he looks much better than those old bachelors and rascals in the village. Wu Huan ran wildly in the wild, howling like a wounded beast. The moon was as bright as frost, and the autumn wind was as sharp as a knife. He didn't know the path, and just headed north. Li Qingshan, come. Let's settle this. When the sky was just beginning to brighten, he came to the city of Beiping, the legendary Devil's Den. He followed the flow of people to the city, and saw the city full of people in mourning, and his heart was even more desolate. Could it be that there was a plague in the city? That devil went against the will of heaven, and you ignorant people dared to stay here and follow him. This is retribution. However, the flow of people on the street didn't seem like there was a plague, and they were all gathering in one direction. He pulled out a pedestrian. Where are so many people going? Whose family is holding a funeral? Sigh, Master Fu Ku is going to pass away, and we are all going to send him off. Could it be Abbot Fu Ku of the Pudu Temple? Wu Huan was surprised. This person was already famous when he was young, and then he suddenly joined the World Society. The whole martial arts world was in an uproar, and they couldn't believe it. Some thought he was enduring the humiliation and preparing to assassinate Li Qingshan. Some thought he was doing it to protect the lives of the monks in the temple, and had no other choice. There were many different opinions, but no one thought that he was a coward who was afraid of death. Later, the World Society didn't send troops south, and it was said that it had a lot to do with his advice, and he still enjoyed a high reputation in the martial arts world. Sigh, I didn't expect to die in this devil's den. He didn't have time to sigh, and he felt that he was getting closer to revenge. The temple was silent, and the old monk sat alone, with a lonely lamp. Success chased after failure, and life and death were fated. If he couldn't go through the tribulation and ascend, his time would come. His chances of breaking through the void were not high, and he had almost no time to practice martial arts these years. If the youth hall was the hope of the World Society, then the Pudu Hall was the last safeguard, responsible for taking care of the orphans and the disabled. For the past 16 years, there were major disasters almost every year. Even though they fought the disasters well, there were still many orphans left, and they were all taken in and taken care of by the Pudu Hall. As the head of the Pudu Hall, he was the provider of food and clothing for these children. The World Society's financial resources were limited, and they had to build bridges, roads, and dams. At most, they could only ensure that these people wouldn't die of hunger and cold. In order to have a good meal for his children and a new set of clothes, he had to run around begging. As a former unsecular sublime being, he could no longer sit in the temple on the mountain, and had to enter the homes of ordinary people. Sometimes he had to perform religious rituals to earn money, and sometimes he had to perform a dozen religious rituals in a row, supported by his vital qi. For the past decade, his reputation in the northern region was only below that of Li Qingshan, and even higher than that of Gu Yenying. He was like the Buddha of all. At this moment, the sound of crying in the city was proof. In one night, He finally made arrangements for his funeral so that there wouldn't be too many omissions after his death. He could finally calm down and reflect on his life. He suddenly realized that he hadn't reflected like this for a long time. He was so busy that he almost forgot about the good thoughts, not to mention the evil thoughts. He couldn't help but recall 20 years ago, when there was a great drought in the middle region, and people were starving for thousands of miles. He led the monks to chant sutras and pray for blessings in front of the Buddha for 3 days and 3 nights without sleep. Compared to the days he had lived these years, it was a kind of leisure enjoyment. He had almost forgotten the sutras he had chanted at that time, and he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Am I still a monk? The vital qi in his dantian began to disperse, and his face was pale, but his eyes suddenly shone with a clear light, as if he had woken up from a dream. He suddenly realized that he might have been possessed by the devil at that time. But when he recalled all these years, he didn't feel a trace of regret. On the contrary, a kind of warmth filled his chest, as if a lamp had been lit in his chest, and he had an explanation. Hero Prince, are you good or evil? The sun shone in, the morning bell rang, and the lone lamp was extinguished. Master has passed away. To be continued. Chapter 12:27. The autumn rain began to fall again. You want to join the Tianxia Society? Gu Yenying put down the documents in her hands and looked at Wu Huan from head to toe. Even though everyone in the northern region practiced martial arts, there were only a few who could break through the innate realm. Innate masters were still important talents, not to mention that he came from the south. He needed to be taken seriously and examined. Yes. Wu Huan tried hard to calm himself down from the amazement, but he still couldn't believe that there was such a beautiful woman in the world. He thought that her beauty was the pinnacle of the human world, but even with the addition of deep affection, he had to admit the difference between the two. Perhaps the word beautiful wasn't quite accurate anymore. Her body was also emitting a cruel and imposing aura. That ordinary long table seemed to have been raised to a height of tens of thousands of feet, and she was looking down from behind the table. Her cold and sharp eyes could see through one's heart, causing one to tremble. Was this the prestige of the Tianxia Society's leader? Why? Gu Yenying crossed her arms and leaned against the back of the chair. Because I admire the chivalrous deeds of the hero king, and also to learn more profound martial arts. These 2 reasons were very normal. Wu Huan lowered his head, hiding his thoughts. Oh, then what kind of chivalrous deeds do you admire the most, and what kind of martial arts do you want to learn? Wu Huan couldn't help but be stunned. His anger when she was taken away appeared in his mind again. That was the chivalrous deed of Li Qingshan that left the deepest impression on him, and he was a dying man. Why would he want to learn any martial arts? He quickly racked his brains. Only with the identity of a member of the Tianxia Society could he naturally get close to Li Qingshan. If his identity was exposed before this, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just as he was thinking of what to say, Gu Yenying smiled slightly. Which hall do you want to go to? I'm just a martial artist, and I don't know much about the various halls. I just want to serve the hero king. Wu Huan could no longer look into her eyes, and felt that every moment in front of her was torture. The hero king is controlling the flood in the north. Then I'll go control the flood, Wu Huan immediately said. Okay, I agree to let you join the society. After the oath, you can leave immediately. Wu Huan. Wu Huan's throat choked and his heartbeat began to accelerate. Guild leader, my name is Wu Heng. Wu Huan, Wu Heng, aren't you being too careless with this fake name of yours? Your father is the great cave master of the Southern Territory's 72 caves, Wu Ming. Wu Huan felt as though he was struck by lightning. He forced himself to say, I'm Cave Master Wu's distant nephew, Wu Heng. Because when one filled in the information for joining the society, they had to write down the martial arts they practiced and had to be verified by professionals, so one's origins could not be faked. But the Wuji had many people and was not a large aristocratic family. They were also in the south of the southern border, thousands of miles away from here. The World Society Master had to deal with many affairs every day. How would he know such a small matter? Cave Master Wu has 8 nephews, but none of them are called Wu Heng. As for distant relatives with your martial arts skills, How could you be a nobody? You're here for one of the top 10 beauties of the past, Nangong Wan, right? I remember that you two were engaged back then. I didn't expect that you'd still come back for revenge after more than 10 years. What kind of sure kill move did you learn? Wu Huan's face was pale as if he had been stripped naked in broad daylight. He instinctively wanted to grab the murderous bone in his arms. If he couldn't kill Li Qingshan, then he could only kill the World Society Master in front of him. Follow the river outside the North Gate and you'll find him. Coincidentally, Nangong Wan is also there. Gu Yenying lowered her head again and continued to deal with official business. You're not going to kill me? You're not my enemy. Why would I kill you? And I also feel that what he did was not right. You've worked hard for so many years, so you should at least give me a chance. Gu Yenying didn't even look at him. Since you don't sincerely want to join the World Society, then leave. I still have things to do. Wu Huan walked out of the door of the World Society with his entire body tensed. He didn't encounter even the slightest obstruction. In his heart, he was both glad and angry. He was glad that the other party was careless and angry that she didn't take him seriously. You'll definitely regret it the moment I see Li Qingshan. Gu Yenying didn't take the small matter just now to heart. If Li Qingshan was so easily assassinated, he would have died many times over. All these years, he wandered around the world and almost stepped on all the traps that he could. Be it the strange poison bewildering array, the sea of fire, or the mountain of blades, none of them could do anything to him. Only then did he slowly stop playing around and focus on his work. Actually, even if she didn't have the encyclopedic knowledge, she could easily see through Wu Huan's lies. Because all these years, her sensitivity to the hot wind hell had improved by leaps and bounds. She didn't need to rely on any external force to attract the hot wind of hell. If she returned to the 9 prefectures, she would definitely be able to break through the bottleneck of the illustrations of Naraka scripture. After all, the laws in her world had been strictly maintained for 16 years. This kind of experience couldn't be experienced in the 9 prefectures. She was only a constable there. There might be differences in the size of the world, but there was no difference in this kind of experience. As a result, the dignified and austere aura on her became even thicker. If the other party had ulterior motives, they would tremble in fear the moment they saw her. She also had a strange ability to see through the truth and distinguish between right and wrong. Therefore, from the moment Wu Huan walked in, she knew that he wasn't here to join the World Society. Of course, she didn't plan to use this assassination as an excuse for war. She stood up and walked to the window, looking towards the south. Those fellows must be getting impatient. Over the past 16 years, she had put her wisdom to good use on this land. She used the methods of Confucianism, Taoism, Moism, and agriculture. She established a grammar, innovated technology, opened up commerce, and improved crops. Although the World Society didn't send troops to the south, the momentum it formed had already swept through the entire world, causing people's hearts to gradually shift. Not to mention the commoners, even the younger generation of the sects and aristocratic families had unknowingly and indirectly accepted part of the World Society's ideology. This was all thanks to martial union. In order to deal with the invisible attack of the World Society, under the orders of Union Master Zhang Yuntian, the various sects and families unlocked a large number of martial arts secret manuals and circulated them among the people. Because if they didn't do this, all the people in the world who wanted to learn martial arts would run to the northern region. However, doing so was in line with the ideology of the World Society, making it easier for the future unification. As for the young martial artists who were born in the commoner class, they naturally had a sense of gratitude towards the World Society. This Union Master Zhang had also put in a lot of effort to restrain the aristocratic families and sects from plundering the commoners. He had also established a set of decent laws, almost doing whatever the World Society did. The current martial union was simply like a crude imitation of the World Society. The people of the martial arts world jokingly called him the #1 spy sent by the World Society. His personal position as the Union Master was rather stable. He didn't even seem like the Union Master anymore, but more like the ruler of a country. It had become a confrontation between two countries. Now that the world was united, everyone was looking forward to the world society heading south. She had already begun to order people to encroach on the south. If they waited another 16 years, the world would be unified, and there wouldn't even be a need for war. If the other party refused to accept the fate of defeat, they would definitely fight to the death. The war was imminent. Chapter 12:28. In the endless darkness, anger, curses, insults, threats, and hatred surged over like a tidal wave. Li Qingshan stood in the center of the darkness without moving at all. He sniggered. "What can you do to me?" So the darkness collapsed. He lay on the tree and opened his eyes. The sky was overcast, and the autumn rain fell on the leaves. 3 children squatted on the treetop. They were of different ages, and they all looked at him with their round eyes, like 3 wild monkeys. They held brushes in their hands, and when they saw him wake up, they quickly hid the brushes behind them. "Dad, you're awake?" Li Qingshan wiped the ink on his face. "Watch me spank your butts." The 3 monkey children rushed down the tree, and he reached out to grab the youngest one. The child argued, "It's Mother who asked me to draw it." Sure enough, in the distance, a woman riding a white elephant laughed so hard that she could not stand up straight. Li Qingshan threw the child over. The white elephant raised its trunk, caught the child gently, and sent him back to the arms of its mother. "Really, you used so much force. What if he fell to his death?" The woman complained. "He deserves to fall to his death. Anyway, I have many sons." Li Qingshan laughed. In this world, at least he broke the record in JoJo, and that was giving birth. Now he had almost 20 children, which was simply unimaginable in JoJo. First, because he had enough time. He rarely had so much free time in JoJo, and he used it to cultivate. Second, his strength was greatly suppressed. Although his physique was 10,000 times weaker, his chances of giving birth to children had increased. Although this world imprisoned his strength, it did not restrict his ability to reproduce. The children born were no longer confined by this world. Instead, they inherited his bloodline. All of them were full of vigor. He guessed that this world wanted to absorb his energy in this way. What a terrible conspiracy. The child was not afraid at all. He giggled, "I won't die even if you die." With a thud, he was thrown to the ground. The other 2 monkey children pointed at him and laughed. Covered in dirt, he climbed up, roared, and pounced on them. The 3 of them immediately started fighting. Li Qingshan jumped down from the tree with a baby in his arms. It was Luo Ho Xiaoming. 16 years had made him even weaker. He was like an ordinary human baby, sleeping most of the time. Li Qingshan was worried that he would continue like this. It turned into a little tadpole. He left him in the care of the woman and went to the side of a large canal. There were nearly 1,000 people on both sides of the canal. He asked loudly, "Is everyone well rested?" Everyone burst into laughter. It turned out that Li Qingshan's face had been smeared with black ink. "What are you laughing at? Get to work." Everyone agreed loudly. Li Qingshan leaped down. In midair, he grabbed the hilt of his saber and headed in the direction of the canal. The saber slashed down. The saber energy whistled as it advanced. Rocks and dirt flew everywhere, and a deep saber mark that was 1,000 feet long was left on the ground. Everyone took their tools. They swarmed forward and began to clear the soil and rocks, building the canal. Li Qingshan did not idle around. He stretched his arms and dug the soil and rocks, moving forward with all his might. At this moment, there was no smile on his face. Instead, it was filled with perseverance and patience. The group of people worked in full swing. Even the continuous autumn rain above their heads seemed to be evaporating. The woman also controlled the white elephant to help move the soil and rocks. The white elephant was already a demon and had immense strength. It seemed extremely easy for it to carry several tons of soil and rocks. It did not need anyone to command it. The woman leaned against the tree, hugged the baby, and munched on melon seeds. She watched the 3 children fight, occasionally encouraging them. After all, she had nothing to do. Wu Huan followed the river and finally found a large canal. It was not yet connected to the river. With the continuous autumn rain, the river water rose again. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before the dam burst. That villain and his lackeys might be building the canal. If I break the dam now and flush them with water, but he immediately dispelled that thought. He was here to kill that villain. That villain would not die in the flood. Are you here to find the hero king? A deep voice sounded. A towering dragon's head popped out from the dam. Wuhuan was shocked. Only then did he realize that the dam between the river and the canal was a giant tortoise. It was the old ninja that Li Qingshan brought from Pudu Temple. After Li Qingshan's guidance, its cultivation improved rapidly. Its body grew larger and larger, and it could even speak. It was arranged by Li Qingshan to be the dam hirch. This must be the mount of that legendary villain. That villain loves to associate with evildoers. Wu Huan bowed respectfully and said, "May I ask where the hero king is?" "At the end of the canal." The giant tortoise retracted its head. "Thank you." Wu Huan walked along the canal. He felt his heart beating faster and faster. He almost could not breathe. He stood on the spot and looked up at the hazy sky. "I'm not only here to take revenge for myself. I'm here to exterminate the devil and restore peace to the world." Now, Martial Union has begun to organize an army to prepare for the northern expedition. This war will probably lead to thousands of miles of bloodshed and millions of casualties. I'm here to stop the war. 100 years later, there will definitely be people who remember my name. I, Wu Huan, will be the warrior who killed the devil and assassinated the hero king. With such righteousness, he tried his best to calm down and walked forward resolutely. Suddenly, a white dot appeared at the end of his vision. When he saw clearly that it was a white elephant, his heart skipped a beat. "She's here." It was a spiritual beast passed down from generation to generation in the Nangong family. It was kidnapped on the way to send the bride and ended up in the north. As he walked forward, he realized that the white elephant was doing its best to move the soil and stones. If the white elephant was like this, who knew what kind of suffering she was going through? However, he felt relieved. To be able to die in front of her and let her see her beloved man sacrifice his life to avenge her, it was not in vain. Perhaps he could even escape with her. In this wilderness, as long as I kill Li Qingshan, who can stop me when I'm just a group of laborers digging canals? He grabbed the killing bone in his arms and widened his eyes. "Li Qingshan, I'm here. Where are you?" Dust filled the air in the canal, and figures flickered. He couldn't find them for a moment. "Hey, you over there. You're here to take revenge on me, right?" Li Qingshan's voice rang out in the canal. In that instant, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Wu Huan together. Their eyes lit up with a red glow. The dirt-covered workers suddenly turned into Azuras. Wu Huan's blood seemed to freeze. He realized that none of these people weren't Xiantian experts. They were united as a fortress, and their killing intent soared to the sky, destroying everything. His righteous heart for revenge almost collapsed in an instant. Only then did he realize that he wasn't facing a demon, but the king of demons. He couldn't say a word, and he didn't dare to make a single move. He just stood there in a daze, trembling on the brink of collapse. To be continued. Chapter 12:29. The sleeping Luo Ho Xiaoming opened his eyes. This was the Azura he had personally transformed. Tens of thousands of people had participated in the ceremony. After 16 years of evolution and elimination, there were less than 1,000 people left with the heart of Azura. Most of them had transformed back into mortals, but they still had the chance to practice martial arts. But this was enough to surprise him. The heart of Azura needed to be tempered by the flames of war. There hadn't been any war in the past decade. It would be good if there were 100 or so of them left. But Li Qingshan had made a declaration 10 years ago: it is better to fight against the heavens than to fight against men. Man will conquer the heavens. He led this group of people to fight against all kinds of natural disasters. Floods, fires, earthquakes, droughts, locust plagues. The heavens had imposed almost all possible disasters on this land. This was even crueler than war. Under the mighty power of the heavens, even the people felt it was extremely difficult. It was as if they were facing an invincible enemy. Most of the time, he could only allow himself to be slaughtered. He could only look helplessly at the scars it left behind. Some people died in the sea of fire and disappeared in the flood. Many people gave up and chose to get married and have children, living a more comfortable life. But there was a group of people who persevered. They fought against the heavens and became real Asuras. The heart of battle they formed was very special. It wasn't bloodthirsty and warlike like ordinary Asuras. Instead, it had a heroic spirit that could change the world. Even the Shura divine son was amazed. If it wasn't for this small world, if it wasn't for such a leader who could lead the people to fight against the natural disasters, there wouldn't be such Asuras. He was curious why such a group of Asuras had come to the Shura realm. Would it be a compliment or a blow? A group of warriors fought, not to win its favor, but to carry out a kind of spirit, even at the cost of fighting against the heavens. But he believed that they would be the favorites of the Shura realm because they were true warriors. And Li Qingshan didn't mistreat them. They were fully provided with cultivation resources and all the worldly pleasures, whether it was wealth or women, he didn't hesitate to give them gifts. This was a small compensation for their sacrifice. But this was for a group of true warriors. It was just an adjustment between battles. The real fun was no longer in it. Of course, every one of them was an innate expert. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called Asura. This had nothing to do with inner force or true chi. Instead, it was a fundamental change in his bloodline and physique. It could be said that almost all of them had stepped into the innate realm with their willpower. In the face of such an existence, how could Wu Huan's psyche resist it? The fact that he didn't have a mental breakdown was already a testament to his strong willpower. Just when he felt that he could not hold on any longer, Li Qingshan waved his hand. Wait a moment, the water will be flowing soon. Alright, stop looking. What's there to look at? Hurry up and get to work. Don't keep them waiting. The red lights dimmed, and everyone returned to their original state. They continued to work hard with their faces covered in dirt, chatting and laughing as if nothing had happened. It was as if they were not worried about the dam that was about to be broken by the flood, let alone the Avengers on the shore who were scared silly. He seemed ordinary yet fearless, humble yet full of lofty sentiments. Luo Ho Xiaoming closed his eyes again. He really wanted to lead such an army into battle. Wu Huan lay on the ground, panting heavily. It was as if a drowning man had returned to the shore. He was drenched in sweat, as if he had just been fished out of the water. He suddenly did not want to take revenge. He just wanted to run away and get as far away from this group of people as possible. But when he thought of her looking at him, he could not move. He lay on the shore like a statue. "Mother, that person is so strange," a child said. "Don't go over. That's your father's enemy. Be careful that he doesn't bite you. But why does he look so familiar, as if I've seen him somewhere before?" The rain became heavier, dyeing the land bleak. Cracks appeared all over the river, the largest of which just happened to point in the direction of Beiping City. If one looked from above, the river looked like an agitated dragon, twisting its body and extending its claws. It wanted to break through the restraints of the dam and devour the city. A long howl resounded throughout the land. In the distance, the big turtle heard the howl. It stretched its limbs and moved its body. With a boom, the torrent rushed down. With its body, it could only float and sink in the water. The water level in the river quickly fell. The flood was like 10,000 galloping horses, rushing through the canal. All the Asuras roared, full of joy. They had won this battle. Li Qingshan stopped howling and smiled with relief. "Your Highness, give me a hand," the big turtle shouted in the flood. "I'll give you 3 days off. Go and play." But Li Qingshan watched the big turtle being washed away by the flood. He turned around and walked in front of Wu Huan. "Come, tell me, what enmity do you have with me? The revenge of stealing my wife is absolutely irreconcilable." Wu Huan suddenly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot. "Can you be more precise?" Li Qingshan felt a little distressed. Which of the top 10 beauties did not have a large number of admirers? "Do you still remember how you kidnapped my soon-to-be married wife, Nangong Wan, of the Nangong family, 15 years ago in the southern land?" Wu Huan said as he slowly took out the killing bone from his chest. Ah, you are Wu something. Nangong Wan stood far away on the leaves to avoid the rain. When she heard her name, she hurried over and looked at Wu Huan up and down. It's really, you've changed so much, I almost didn't recognize you. Wu Huan lowered his head. She was still as beautiful as before, but he had changed. When he saw the 3 children, it was as if they had been cut 3 times. Hatred immediately overwhelmed his fear, and he clenched the killing bone tightly. It is indeed the hatred of stealing my wife, but you can't blame me for it. I asked her if she was willing to go with me, and she agreed. Li Qingshan spread his hands, without any awareness of taking responsibility. That's impossible. Wu Huan roared in anger. Nangong Wan said angrily, nonsense. Before Wu Huan could feel a trace of relief, Nangong Wan said, you clearly said go with me. I just said it casually, and now I regret it very much. Li Qingshan shook his head. You clearly came for me. Nangong Wan's eyes turned red. Li Qingshan, you have no conscience. I gave birth to one after another for you, and you actually treat me like this. But she could not forget that 15 years ago, in that deep and dense forest, the sunlight scattered on the ground. He was like a god descending from the sky, standing on the white elephant that was sending off the bride. His golden hair flew like the wind, and his golden eyes shone like stars. He reached out to her. Come with me. So she did not hesitate to grab that hand. Hold it back. Li Qingshan shouted. He still remembered that when he brought her back to the northern region, she was so angry on the way that he pulled her down from the elephant and taught her a lesson. It was not that he did not know how to be gentle with the fairer sex, but she was really asking for it. She was the most unruly and willful among the top 10 beauties, and her personality was terrible to the extreme. She could not give him the moon when she wanted the stars. She cried, threw a tantrum, and even threatened to hang herself. She thought of herself as the wife of the hero king, and never gave others a good look. She was sharp-tongued and vicious, and he really wasted a lot of effort to teach her how to be a person. Everyone else was busy with their own things, but she did not do her proper work all day, and followed him on a broken elephant. This was the result of being taught how to be a person for so many years. Of course, the 3 children were also one of the results. In the past, there was a big beating every 3 days, and a small kick every day. It was better after having children. Now, wherever she went with children, she used them as a protective talisman. It was also a little like a solid state. Li Qingshan, you are not human. Follow whoever is human. There's one here, and it's your old lover from back then. It couldn't be better. The Azuras all smiled, and even the 3 monkey children were grinning. Obviously, they were used to it. Wu Huan was stunned on the spot and murmured, Wan, this is not true, this is not true. Hey Wu Huan, don't talk nonsense. We don't have anything. We haven't even seen each other a few times, and you are so strange. Wu Huan shouted hysterically, we are legally married husband and wife, how can we not have anything? Nangong Wan looked disdainful. If it wasn't for my father wanting to subdue the group of barbarians in the 72 caves, would I marry into such a broken place? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself, and see how you are worthy of me? Besides, you were so ugly back then. Li Qingshan held his forehead with his right hand, and could not bear it any more. That's enough. He did not hesitate to die for revenge. Can't you have some humanity? Ah, you are still speaking up for him? If I slept with every man who was willing to die for me, even after 10 years, it wouldn't be your turn, you bastard. Nangong Wan put her hands on her waist, and her face was red. She had not felt so happy in a long time. Li Qingshan's veins were exposed, and he gritted his teeth. Nangong Wan, just you wait tonight. Nangong Wan stared back. Who's afraid of who? Anyway, you can't kill me. Wu Huan's face was ashen, and he felt something in his heart was broken. Li Qingshan said, it's getting late. If you want to make a move, then come. But do you really love her that much and hate me that much? Or have you been fooled by the evil heavens? Night fell, and Wu Huan listened to the sound of rolling waves, and slowly raised the killing bone in his hand. At this time, Li Qingshan had already led everyone back to Beiping City and was deep in the Hero King's mansion, teaching Miss Nangong how to be a person. No matter how much she moaned and begged, he did not show any mercy. Wu Huan turned the killing bone and aimed it between his eyebrows and closed his eyes, activating the resentment and curse that had accumulated for 14 years. After a while, he opened his eyes and found that he was unharmed. Even though the killing bone could kill without a trace, and even peerless masters would find it hard to resist, it was ineffective against the person himself. This was something that no one had ever known, because no one had ever committed suicide in such a way. The heavens played tricks on people. The next morning, smoke rose from the village and the woman got up to cook. Seeing a person lying in front of the door, she could not help but be shocked, and walked forward carefully. "Sir?" At the same time, a letter of challenge was spread all over the world. The leader of the martial arts world, Zhang Yuntian, challenged the Hero King, Li Qingshan, to a battle at the Black Tortoise Field to decide the ownership of the world. Floating astronomy. Chapter 12:30. The west wind blew fiercely, and the sky was filled with yellow sand. Outside Xuanwu City, the barracks stretched for hundreds of miles. Soldiers walked in and out like ants in a mountain of ants. Zhang Yuntian stood at the top of the city wall with his hand on the battlements. His eyes seemed to see through the yellow sand, and he said without looking back, "How many soldiers have been gathered?" "Leader, 150,000, the mysterious Void Temple Lord said. "Not enough. Before the final battle, there needs to be 1,000,000 soldiers outside the city. Many people are not willing to fight the Hero King, and it's hard to supply them with food. Let the sects and families think of a way, whether it's giving them big rewards or hiring strong men. 1,000,000 soldiers can't be missing, and they have to bring their own food as long as they can last through the snow. Great snow, great snow, great snow, great snow." December 7th, the day of the final battle. But if the Demon King doesn't fight, the 1,000,000 soldiers will be useless. The mysterious Void Temple Lord was worried. As long as Li Qingshan delayed it for a few days, the 1,000,000 soldiers would immediately collapse due to the lack of food, and they might even attack Xuanwu City. He will come, and it won't be too early or too late. Zhang Yuntian looked to the north. He had prepared for this day for 16 years. The mysterious Void Temple will naturally support the leader, but what if the leaders of the sects and families have objections? Threaten or bribe them. If it doesn't work, kill them. Zhang Yuntian's voice was calm, as if he was not talking about the heroes of the Jianghu, but a group of ants. In the past 16 years, he had felt the will of the heavens on him. He had done everything smoothly, and he had grasped unprecedented power. He was no longer the Zhang Yuntian of the past. He believed that even if the first leader of the alliance stood in front of him, he could kill him easily. The mysterious Void Temple Lord felt a chill in his heart. He looked at Zhang Yuntian's back. "Don't worry, Temple Lord. I won't become the second Demon King. After I complete the heavenly mandate, I will ascend." Zhang Yuntian looked up at the dusky sky. His ascension heavenly tribulation would be smooth sailing. That would be his reward from the heavens. "I'll go and prepare. We've known each other for many years. But military law is merciless. Be careful." Zhang Yuntian's tone did not contain any killing intent, but the meaning was clear. Such anger flashed in the mystic Void Temple Master's eyes. He lowered his head deeply. Back then it was a serious injury. He flew down from the tower and turned around to look at the figure that was submerged in the sandstorm. Yi Shiwen recalled that a few years ago, a group of horse bandits had swept over from the Western Territory and invaded the Central Territory. Thanks to the spread of martial arts secret books, these horse bandits were all warriors and their leader was a master of Xiantian 7th stage. Meanwhile, Zhang Yuntian faced the battle alone. With a single move, the sound of a dragon's roar reverberated in the air, and sand and stone flew everywhere. Zhang Yuntian killed all of the mounted bandits, shocking the entire martial union. Even a peerless master of Xiantian 10th stage couldn't possess this kind of strength. In this world, besides Li Qingshan, was there anyone else who could be his opponent? Thinking of this, he touched the scar on his face. It was a mark left by the thunder. Even though the injury had long since healed, the scar could not be removed. It also erased all the possibility of him passing the tribulation and ascending. Hatred burned like a raging fire. Li Qingshan, your time has come. 10 days later, 4 families and 6 sects were annihilated because they resisted or slacked off on Zhang Yuntian's summons. The heroes were shocked and understood his determination. Groups of soldiers from the Western Territory, Southern Territory, and Eastern Territory set out for the Central Territory. The Northern Territory was like a pot of oil ignited by the sparks. Everyone wanted to fight, willing to follow the king to wipe out martial union and capture Zhang Yuntian alive. Because of this letter of challenge, the entire world was stirred up, dragons and snakes rose from the land. Your Highness, just give the order. I'm willing to be the vanguard. It's just martial union. There's no need for a vanguard. Your Highness will end it soon enough. The conference room was noisy. Only experts of Xiantian's 6th stage and above were qualified to sit here. The others could only stand at the back and listen. There were hundreds of people gathered, and most of them were young faces. This was because many of the Xiantian masters had important tasks and could not attend the meeting. The Shura army was resting in the city and only sent a few people to participate in this meeting. Unknowingly, the World faction had an extremely luxurious lineup. It was beyond anyone's imagination and made everyone think that they could crush all opponents in the world. Some years ago, there were people who proposed to unify the world. The only staunch anti-war faction, Monk Fuku, had passed away not long ago. There were no more different opinions in the conference room. In their eyes, Zhang Yuntian was simply seeking his own death. It was a good opportunity to make the World faction the real World faction. It's a trap, Gu Yenying said with certainty. The conference room suddenly became silent. No one dared to doubt her wisdom, just like no one dared to doubt the power of the King of Heroes. The two of them together were simply the symbol of omniscience and omnipotence. And only the other party could oppose their ideas. So everyone looked at the other end of the long table. Li Qingshan was lying on the chair lazily with his ending flower saber beside him. He asked casually, "What trap?" There's definite evidence that Zhang Yuntian has taken control of the Divine Dragon Jade Seal of the First Alliance Master. Divine Dragon Jade Seal? What is that? It's an item that gathers the hearts of the people. It's the symbol of power in the world. Gu Yenying also took out a seal. There was also a jade dragon carved on it. This was not a coincidence. To build a country and gather the hearts of the people, the king would receive the faith of the people and become a god in the world. This power was also known as Dragon Chi. The center of the 9 provinces was the Dragon Province, and the core of the 9 cauldrons was the Dragon Province Cauldron. However, the 9 cauldrons were the creations of powerful cultivators. They had refined countless divine seals of mountains and rivers and fused with the laws of heaven and earth. Naturally, the divine dragon jade seal could not be compared to it, but it was still the peak power of a world. In these years, she had turned to this power after handing over the Shura army. Meanwhile, Martial Union, as the first major organization in history to unify the entire world, maintained its existence for several hundred years. Even if it could not be called a country, the Divine Dragon Jade Seal still held a preconceived title. However, after the First Alliance Master, Long Padian, ascended, all that remained of Martial Union was its title. It no longer possessed any power. This continued until Zhang Yuntian became the Alliance Master once more. After so many years of development, Martial Union became more and more like a country. Moreover, the Divine Dragon Jade Seal also had the blessings of the heavens. The Divine Dragon Jade Seal must have gathered an extremely powerful force. If we obtain this Divine Dragon Jade Seal, we can contend against the will of the heavens. That's right. Man can conquer nature. We might even have a chance to replace him. So, you've been doing this on purpose all these years, right? Li Qingshan smiled. Over the past few years, the World Council had basically been teaching the Martial Forest Alliance how to establish a nation through the establishment of laws and halls. With someone helping us lay the foundation, why not? That's why this is not considered a trap. Zhang Yuntian is currently gathering an army. I'm afraid he wants to give us a taste of our own medicine. Even though the military chi of the military school was a secret that was not passed down to outsiders, it was not something profound. Learning a rough version was not a problem. However, as long as there were enough people, they could not be underestimated. Chapter 12:31. Li Qingshan asked, "Since it's a trap, is there any way to break it?" "I have 3 plans. The best plan is for you to attack Xuanwu City immediately and take Zhang Yuntian's head. The Dragon Jade Seal alone can't stop you. The second plan is to delay the day of the final battle. When the enemy can't supply food, the army will collapse without a fight. The worst plan is to fight on the day of the final battle. You will face the enemy head-on, and I will lead the army to attack the enemy." Gu Yenying waved her folding fan with confidence. Li Qingshan smiled. "Then I choose the worst plan. On the 7th of October, I will let Zhang Yuntian increase his strength to the extreme, and then I will defeat him head-on." Gu Yenying shook her head. "No, this is the best plan. We will win the hearts of the people with benevolence and conquer the world with the rule of the king. We will not kill, but we will capture the leader." Li Qingshan laughed. "It seems that you have already thrown all caution to the wind. Isn't this exactly what you want? But the trouble will come after the battle. You have to be careful. Don't worry. I have a plan." The two talked and laughed as if there was no one else around. Everyone was silent, as if they had become the background. But they had long been used to this feeling. Even the innate masters sitting here would not think that they were equal. It was not because they were arrogant, but because they clearly realized that they were completely different from each other. However, it saved a lot of effort to have such 2 people as commanders. Several of the 10 beauties suddenly felt a little lost at this moment. Even though they had a physical relationship with him and had children with him, there was still a long distance between them that had never been narrowed. But standing at the 2 ends of the long table, they were actually standing side by side, facing the enemy together. Li Qingshan got up and left. He opened the door and the sunlight poured in. He looked back and smiled. "Everyone, I will take back the mandate of heaven for you." The mandate of heaven. This word stunned everyone, especially the innate masters who were qualified to sit here. They were lost in thought. There were thousands of benefits in the world, but there was also a big problem. 16 years had passed, and no one had passed the test and ascended. Even the left and right protectors who had followed the hero king from the beginning. Originally, he had the ability to give it a try, but he was dissuaded by Li Qingshan. Transcending the tribulation and ascending didn't just require one to resist the tribulation lightning, but also to break the shackles of this world. One had to go through the test of heaven's will. And everything that Li Qingshan had done in this world. At the end of the day, it could only be described with one word: heaven-defying. The heavens wanted to destroy him. He struggled to survive. If the heavens wanted to weaken him, he would never give up. Heaven wanted him to be deserted, but he wanted the whole world to submit to him. And all those who supported him. Heaven's will take its anger out on them, which is why the northern region has been plagued by disasters year after year. He could still rely on the feather of the rock to return to the 9 prefectures, but his subordinates, women, and children were destined to be trapped in this side of the world, enduring a mere 100 years of life. Even if he reached the Xiantian 10th stage, it would be difficult for him to live past 200 years. Since the heavens can't do anything to me, now is the time to strike back. Li Qingshan strode into the sunlight. Everyone stood up. "Farewell, Your Highness." The hero king accepted the challenge. On the 7th day of the 10th month, the dragon fought in the wild, and its blood turned yellow. On the first day of the 10th month, the Tianxia conference set off. The common people gathered in Jingzong. Not only did the Tianxia conference not summon troops, But they also sent people to pacify the various places, so that the common people could spend the winter in peace and not follow them. But there were still many people who followed the troops, not to help in the war, but to cheer. In just one day, there were 100,000 people gathered. And in the world, as long as one was a martial artist, he had to go to Xuanwu City. Such a decisive battle was hard to come by in 1,000 years. The big turtle carried the temporary imperial residence and advanced in the cheers of the people. The Shura army made way for the crowd. The temporary imperial residence was surrounded by beauties. Except for young Miaozhen, the others had brought their children with them, and they all looked at him with respect. The children were so excited that their faces were red. Since ancient times, who could enjoy such a great reputation? If it was 16 years ago, who would have thought that he would have to share a husband in the future? But now, he felt that it was natural. Maybe only the woman in front of him was qualified to make him be faithful to her. But after so many years, he was sure that there was no love affair between them. Li Qingshan and Gu Yenying sat opposite each other. Gu Yenying smiled. "How does it feel?" Li Qingshan said, "It's all thanks to your 16 years of hard work. Let me toast to you." Their cups clinked, and they drained it in one gulp. Li Qingshan chuckled. "But I don't feel anything." "Is that so? Whether it's praised or slandered by 10,000 people, there is no difference. I act according to my heart. It's just that I happen to be a good person." "Good person?" Gu Yenying laughed and looked around. "This is not something a good person would do." The women all blushed. "Father, a little higher, I think I can see it." Tai Dan urged anxiously. Li Qingshan seemed to sense something. He opened the curtain and saw Wu Huan in the crowd, as well as the child on his shoulder. He couldn't help but nod. The crowd cheered again. Wu Huan hesitated for a moment, then nodded in return. Li Qingshan put down the curtain, and Gu Yenying asked, "What's wrong?" "Maybe I'm not a good person, but no matter what, it's much more pleasant to see others happy than to see others suffer." Tai Dan shouted, "Father, the king of chivalry is nodding at me. The king of chivalry is nodding at me." The group passed through the village, and Wu Huan smiled. "Since you've seen it, let's go home. Your mother is almost done preparing dinner." "Yes." Tai Dan nodded heavily, then asked, "Father, aren't you going to watch?" Many people in the village have gone, saying that they want to comprehend peerless martial arts from this battle. "No, let's go home for dinner. I'll teach you a few more moves after dinner." "All right." They went all the way south, across the Northern Territory, and to the Middle Territory. The people lined the streets to welcome them. The name of chivalry had long since spread throughout the world, and in order to gather an army of 1,000,000, Zhang Yuntian had recruited laborers and transported rations on a large scale. He had already become a villain in the world. Aside from the aristocratic families and sects that had a vested interest in him, which commoner did not hope for the king of chivalry to unify the world and build a peaceful world like the Northern Territory? "King of chivalry, I'm Ho Zhen of the Changfeng Escort Agency. I was the one who showed you the way back then." Ho Zhen shouted loudly, his face full of white beard. After the group passed, the young disciple asked, "Master, did you really show the way to the king of chivalry?" "Of course, the king of chivalry is unparalleled in benevolence, and he treats me with respect. I wanted to show him the way personally, but he refused." "Aren't you afraid of offending martial union?" "Zhang Yuntan, that bastard. I don't think he has many days left." Ho Zhen was furious. Martial Union had taken away almost everyone in the escort agency, and more than half of their savings had been emptied. "Then let's go to Black Tortoise City and help the king of chivalry." "What are you going for? You're the only disciple I have left. If you die, who's going to take care of me in my old age?" The young disciple thought to himself, "Senior brothers are not dead yet." Chapter 12:32. Deep into the night, snow drifted down from the sky. Outside the Black Tortoise City, the two camps faced each other. Torchlights stretched for 100 li, illuminating the snowy night. Zhang Yuntian stood on the city wall, looking at the campfire in the distance. Even though he was the son of Heaven's mandate, he couldn't help but feel nervous. The enemy he had been waiting for 16 years was less than 20 li away, and he was at his weakest. The divine dragon Imperial Jade Seal's draconic chi had weakened significantly, symbolizing the shift in the hearts of the people. He had taken the initiative to start a war, conscripting soldiers and collecting food on a large scale, and the enemy was Li Qingshan, who was renowned throughout the world. These disadvantageous factors were currently making him lose the support of the people. At the same time, it would weaken his strength. If Li Qingshan attacked from the opposite side, he would lose without a doubt. But he knew the other side wouldn't do that, otherwise, he wouldn't have mobilized so many people. "Hey, long time no see. You're called Zhang Yuntian, right?" A voice suddenly sounded. Zhang Yuntian's heart tightened violently. He looked in the direction of the voice. A pair of dark golden eyes flickered in the darkness. Li Qingshan stood on the battlement. His cloak fluttered in the wind and snow like a great banner. I was bored staying in the tent, so I came out for a walk." "Hey, don't tell me you're afraid," Li Qingshan said with a smile. Zhang Yuntian placed his hand on the divine dragon Imperial Jade Seal. A strong gale surged around him, howling like a wild beast. "Your current appearance really makes one lose interest. I hope you won't disappoint me tomorrow." Li Qingshan threw his head back and laughed, leaping into the wind and snow. His laughter still echoed in the air. The entire Black Tortoise City was shaken. "Alliance Chief," the mysterious Void Temple Lord hurried over. Seeing that Zhang Yuntian was safe and sound, he heaved a sigh of relief. If Li Qingshan made his move just now, all his previous efforts would have been in vain. "How is it?" Zhang Yuntian calmed himself down. Suddenly he lost all confidence. "The million-strong army is ready. Ascend the battle stage immediately." Zhang Yuntian slammed his palm on the battlement. With a loud boom, rocks flew everywhere. "Li Qingshan, you will pay for your arrogance." In the tent, Yang Miao was meditating and resting on a praying mat. A gust of cold wind mixed with snowflakes entered. Before he could react, he was thrown onto the thick carpet. He raised his head and looked into the pair of dark golden eyes. He asked indifferently, "Why are you here? Why can't I come?" Li Qingshan took off his cloak and reached out to undress her. "I don't know how to serve you in so many ways." Yang Miaozhen turned her head away, her face slightly red. "Then let this king serve you." Li Qingshan laughed as he stripped her clean. Xiao Mei's jade body lay in disarray. Cupping her cheeks with both hands, he gently caressed her neck, chest, waist, and finally stopped at her smooth abdomen. "I'll help you give birth to a child for fun." "I don't want it. Have you seen my master?" Yang Miaozhen grabbed his hand that continued to slide down. "How did you know I went to Black Tortoise City?" "I guessed. I vaguely saw him. How about it, if you serve me well tonight, I'll spare his life again." "Leave it to fate." Yang Miaozhen closed her eyes, silently feeling the invasion of the pair of large hands. Her body gradually became hotter. All of a sudden, a dragon's roar resounded through heaven and earth, overshadowing the howling wind and snow. "That is?" Yang Miaozhen's heart skipped a beat. She opened her eyes. A dog barking. Li Qingshan leaned over, and a while later, an enchanting moan rang out in the tent. The sky brightened, the 7th day of the 10th lunar month, the decisive battle. Zhang Yuntian stood on the tall platform, surrounded by thousands of tents. Looking to the north, his eyes pierced through the snow. "Li Qingshan, come." His soft words were like a thunderclap, echoing for 100 li. He was the first to issue the challenge. Millions of soldiers watched the battle from afar. The top of Black Tortoise City was filled with spectators. The whole world was waiting for the result of this battle. Zhang Yuntian waved the flag, and the millions of soldiers gathered their qi, surging towards him. Zhang Yuntian's muscles bulged, his veins popped out, tearing his clothes. Half kneeling on the platform, a pained expression appeared on his face. It was not always better to have more qi. Not to mention, his cultivation was only at the 10th level of Xiantian, not even a true cultivator. Even after a night of adaptation, he found it hard to bear such a huge force. But at this time, The divine dragon imperial jade seal in his bosom shone brightly, swallowing the billowing chi. He was not only the commander of the army, he was also the son of heaven personally leading the army to suppress the enemy. A dragon's roar resounded. His clothes were torn to shreds, and his body expanded rapidly. 2 horns grew out of his head, and scales and claws grew out of his body. The ceremonial platform creaked and collapsed with a loud rumble. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Yuntian's body grew taller than the platform, taller than the black tortoise city behind him, reaching a height of over 100 zhang. At this moment, he no longer looked like a human. His lower body lay on the ground, while his upper body bared its fangs and brandished its claws, resembling a bloated, deformed dragon. Ugly and horrifying, his body was still wriggling and changing. The million-strong army gathered at the last minute was not united, and the method he used to gather chi was also crude. Even so, with just his huge body, it was more than enough to crush everything. He felt a power he had never felt before, a power that could destroy everything. A furious roar shook the earth. Li Qingyan, the entire black tortoise city trembled, and everyone watching the battle was dumbfounded. Shouldn't such a monster only exist in nightmares? Even those who thought Zhang Yuntian's death were shaken at this moment. Who under the heavens could defeat such a monster? The martial union was extremely excited. They would definitely win this battle, and they were only worried that Li Qingshan would flee at the last moment. However, if that happened, his reputation would suffer a huge blow. Even if he obtained the world's throne, it would not be justifiable. The world faction's camp was also in an uproar. Originally, they thought it would be an easy battle, but they never expected to encounter such a monster. Even an innate realm expert would be no different from an ant in front of this monster. Even Li Qingshan had never displayed such frightening strength before. Some people couldn't help but wonder if they could really win this battle. Where is His Highness? I don't know. Hurry up and look for him. I don't know which madam's tent His Highness is resting in. There's no way to find him. Go and look for the guild master. Li Qingshan stepped out of the tent and stretched his body. What's with the ruckus? Are you in a hurry to reincarnate? His Highness, there's a monster. Li Qingshan looked over. Even from such a distance, that mountain-like monster could be clearly seen. At the same time, a pair of dragon eyes locked onto him, filled with tyrannical hostility. Li Qingshan shielded his eyes with his hand. Is that our enemy? It's quite big. Gu Yenying urged her horse forward. The aura of 1,000,000 soldiers is indeed extraordinary. Don't lose. Who do you think I am? With their appearance, the camp gradually settled down. Li Qingshan arrived at the entrance of the camp. The Azura army was already waiting in formation. He waved his hand and said, "Follow me to kill the enemy." Chapter 12:33. The blizzard swept through the world, blurring everything. Only the figure of the evil dragon was like a mountain, roaring and rolling like thunder. He was the monarch who gathered the power of the people, the commander of millions of troops, and the son of destiny of this world. He was going to eliminate the alien species on behalf of the heavens. Who could resist him? The people watching the battle on the top of Black Tortoise City were wondering if the hero king would come in the face of such an invincible enemy. A clamor sounded in the wind and snow. It went from weak to loud, as if it was cheering. It came from the camp of the World Club. The hero king is coming. Li Qingshan carried his long saber on his back, and his cloak fluttered in the wind. He stepped forward alone. The blood-red Azura army chi gathered on his body, dyeing his long hair and pupils red. In this world of ice and snow, it was like a drop of blood falling on a piece of white paper, extremely eye-catching. The dragon's eyes focused on this point. He lowered his body and lowered his head. The light in his mouth gathered to the extreme and gushed out with a whistling sound. Boom! A deep pit with a radius of 300 meters was blasted on the ground. The dissipation of the power distorted the air, and the wind rolled up the ice and snow. The ice and snow melted in the air, and the world became clear. What kind of power is this? All the spectators were stunned. They felt the Black Tortoise City trembling under their feet. Rubble fell, and it would collapse at any time. In the camp of the World Club, the cheers also stopped. Anyone who was hit by this attack would undoubtedly die. Where was the Hero King? Then, everyone saw that the proud and aloof figure was still walking forward. He was neither fast nor slow, but somehow he avoided the attack. The evil dragon was enraged. He shook his head, and a blurry light swept over the ground. Rumble. Li Qingshan was calm. He moved as if he was teleporting. He was always one step faster. No matter how the horrible light followed him, it couldn't touch him at all. Zhang Yuntian, I gave you 16 years in vain. Is that all? The light suddenly exploded and swept over a radius of 10 miles, as if it was cleaning the earth. This kind of battle was beyond everyone's imagination. They felt like gods were fighting. Gu Yenying and Luo Ho Xiaoming were probably the only exceptions. When everyone in the world society was concerned about Li Qingshan's safety, Gu Yenying shook her head. I thought it was a trap, but I didn't expect it to be so terrible. In terms of strength alone, Zhang Yuntian had far surpassed Li Qingshan. However, he was unable to control this power well. So it looked huge and clumsy. Even his own thoughts were disrupted. Of course, he was still an invincible existence in this world, even if his opponents were thousands of experts. He could only be crushed. However, his opponent was Li Qingshan. Luo Ho Xiaoming simply lay down on the saddle and fell into a deep sleep. If he could hear the thoughts of the crowd, he would definitely sneer. What kind of battle was this? The earth was cleaned again and again by the violent power, but Li Qingshan's figure was nowhere to be seen. Some people said suspiciously, did he die in the battle? But some people shouted, in the sky. Under the thick dark clouds, a figure stood in the void. It was Li Qingshan. The evil dragon roared to the sky, mixed with Zhang Yuntian's question, Hero King, do you only dare to dodge? Let this farce end here. Li Qingshan sighed. He held the hilt of the saber on his back, tightened his fingers, and pointed the saber at the sky. The dark clouds split in half, and the brilliant sunlight fell on him. He was like the only spotlight on a dark stage, attracting everyone's attention. His body shone with colorful brilliance, and he turned into a rainbow falling from the sky. He landed on the top of Black Tortoise City's city wall, and then turned into Li Qingshan's figure. There was no crack on the battlement under his feet, showing his absolute control over his power. The people watching the battle on the city wall were shocked, and they scrambled away. His cloak fluttered forward, and the evil dragon's huge head appeared behind Li Qingshan. Its sharp teeth were as sharp as rocks, and it was about to bite him. Even if it was a tall and sturdy city wall, it would still have a big hole bitten through it. The city wall was in an uproar, and many people were so scared that they jumped down from the city wall. Li Qingshan did not move, and he did not even turn his head. His cloak fluttered in the wind, and he snapped his fingers, die. The evil dragon's sharp teeth were about to touch him, but they suddenly collapsed. The torrent of power swept through the whole Black Tortoise City like a strong wind, and countless roofs were blown into the sky. No! Zhang Yuntian's unwilling roar was heard in the wind, but it immediately dissipated in the wind. You're mistaken. It's not that the more power you have, the better it is. Li Qingshan's blade had destroyed the evil dragon's heart. Zhang Yuntian, the leader of the Wuling Alliance, reached out and grabbed the divine dragon jade seal that was blown by the wind. This was the difference between two worlds. Back then, when Qiongqi's incarnation descended into the 9 provinces, Li Qingshan had clearly sensed it. Even though Qiongqi was suppressing and attacking the 9 provinces, and the power he could use was not much greater than his own, he had no chance of victory. The difference in quality was so big that it could not be made up by quantity. He could feel the harshness of the 500-year promise more deeply. The gap between them was definitely not something that could be made up for by cultivating step by step. However, he found a possibility in this world. When the wind calmed down, everyone looked up in shock. A golden-haired and golden-eyed figure stood on the city wall. The sky was clear, and the sun shone brightly. Just like in the legends, the hero defeated the evil dragon. Long live the Hero King! Suddenly, someone raised his arm and shouted, which quickly spread to the whole city. Even the millions of soldiers outside the city cheered together. There was both sincere support and irrepressible fear. Even the family heads and sect leaders who wanted to kill Li Qingshan were swept by this great momentum and had to shout, "Long live the hero king," hoping that he would forget their hostility. And the hostility indeed disappeared. How could the weak hearts of mortals be hostile to such an existence? Li Qingshan looked up at the sky and said to himself, "Evil heaven, this is just an appetizer." Gu Yenying led the elites of the world society into the city. When they passed through the city gate, they looked up and smiled at each other. With the accumulation of 16 years, the world society had gradually adapted to the changes brought by the world society and no longer regarded it as the source of chaos and terror. And the world society had also accumulated enough elite strength to quickly control the whole world. At this time, the 10 beauties played a special role. They were all the favored children of various families and sects, and also became the hope in the eyes of aristocratic families and sections. The process of Li Qingshan collecting the 10 beauties in the world was so smooth because of the cooperation and arrangement of the families and sections. Otherwise, it was impossible for Li Qingshan to snatch the bride before Nangong Wan-er's wedding. If he was 1 or 2 days late, when the rice was cooked, he would have to force the beauty contest. Nangong Wan-er's father could sit as the family head of the Nangong family for 16 years because of this identity. Now, this life-saving straw had finally come. All the families and sects expressed that they were willing to surrender as long as the world society didn't kill them. Li Qingshan didn't let them down. He didn't want to plant more seeds of hatred and give the evil heaven a chance to play with people's hearts, so he accepted the surrender of all the families and sections. Early the next morning, in the inner city of Black Tortoise City, the patriarchs and patriarchs came to beg for forgiveness. Only the heads of Divine Wind Faction and Profound Void Temple were absent. Divine Wind Faction's Zhang Yuntian died in battle, and Zhang Xianfeng inherited the position, changing the name of Divine Wind Faction to Divine Wind Hall. Xuebing had long since become the Hall Master of Snow Mountain Hall. The other families and sects followed suit, abdicating their positions and changing to Hall Masters, all for the sake of preserving a bit more strength in the face of great changes. Only the Profound Void Temple Master retreated to the Profound Void Temple, stubbornly resisting to the end. About a month later, Yang Miaozhen entered the temple alone and played a game of chess with the Profound Void Temple Master. A cold plum blossom stood proudly in the snow, black and white crisscrossing beneath it. No matter what Yang Miaozhen said, the Profound Void Temple Master remained silent. In the end, he suddenly asked, "You're pregnant with his child?" He could hear the faint pulse in her belly. Yang Miaozhen nodded. After 16 years of bitter cultivation, her strength was no longer the same as before. She wasn't worried that the other party would suddenly attack and take her hostage. "All right, from today onwards, you're the Profound Void Temple, no, the Profound Void Hall's Hall Master." The Profound Void Temple Master took off the sect head's ring and threw it on the chessboard. From then on, he went into closed-door cultivation. Yang Miaozhen rubbed her belly thoughtfully. From then on, the heads of the world's great families and sects were all part of Li Qingshan's harem, reigning supreme under the heavens. Everyone could foresee that after the hero king ascended, their child would become the new master of the world. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.